Welcome back to the Lakers room. This is episode 2. First, we had people of the Lakers room. Now we actually have a former Laker player, which I can't tell y'all. The kid is going crazy right now. I'm so honored. Actually, I'll show you this. This is how much of a Laker nerd I am. I got me a replica.
Wow, that's real. That's
Yeah,
real.
so serious. I do been doing it. I think I was like 9 years old when y'all won, somewhere around there. But yeah. So we got a number 9 pick in the 1996 NBA draft, one of the best NBA drafts. We got former Louisville Cardinal, actually at the former Louisville Cardinal, actually at the first triple double in school history. There played for the Lakers, won a championship with the Lakers in 2002. Also played with the Dallas Mavericks, San Antonio Spurs, the Wizards, the Heat, the Pacers. Had a nice career in the NBA. He has a son in the NBA now. He has a daughter who's killing things at Cal. We got Samaki Walker in the house, man. Thank you for being here.
Hey man, appreciate you having me. That's good.
Thank. This is a huge honor of mine. So we're gonna get all the way into the Lakers talk. Obviously, this is the Lakers room. It's a blog where I write articles, I do interviews, I do game recaps and things like that. So it's a pleasure having you on. But first, let's start with you, man. So I seen
Right.
somewhere where you said you started playing at 11 years old, which almost sounds like a late bloomer for somebody who makes it to the NBA. At what time did you realize you were special at basketball after you picked it up?
Well, shout out to my father who always taught me basketball was a platform. At 11 years old, you know, he pulled out a basketball because before I wasn't really interested in basketball at all. I grew up watching my dad in old timers leagues at the YMCA. That's how I was introduced to basketball. So uh, at one particular time, he had pulled out a basketball, literally in his hand and said, "This will take you around the world." That was my first introduction. And I remember just practicing with my dad, and he would, execute certain drills, rebounding, things of that nature. And he was the first person, I was so young, told me I had natural ability. And never understood what none of that meant. But he was always encouraging me, telling me I was going to be, you're going to be good at this. And of course, you just as a kid, you expect for your dad or your mom to be always encouraging you, right? But I understood it when I got to high school. It was my freshman year in high school. I was playing alongside the number 1 player in the state, Antonio Watson at the time. Shout out to my guy, Antonio Watson. He was a senior at the time and somebody who set the foundation for me, who showed me how to, approach, being a young phenom. And so I say I was going into high school about 14 years old. And that's when the rest of the city began to say, hey, this kid is probably going to be somebody. And when other people begin to see it, you begin to believe it yourself sometimes. And so I think that's how it started for me. It wasn't one of those things where I knew that I was going to be really good at basketball. It was something that, during our era was something that we did as for fun. It wasn't a vision of the NBA right now. And actually for me, it was about going to college. My dad was very honest. And again, shout out to my dad for just being very honest and up front. I don't feel a lot of parents are like this now. It seems like they're on this ride with their kids as opposed to creating a platform and making their kids really understand what the platform is really about. My dad said, look, I can't send you to college, who was a single parent, by the way. And uh, I think this is where he instilled, ethics, the discipline, the structure, the vision of what basketball can do. He said, this will take you around the world. And that was our goal. College, the NBA was the icing on the cake.
No, that's awesome. And I'll say, man, shout out to your father for one, but I'll also say that leads a lot into the perception is reality. You said that you knew you were special, but when everybody else kind of seen it, that kind of fueled you. So I thank you for sharing that. And high
Absolutely.
school, what was obviously it's totally night and day from what high school hoops is now. What was the
Right.
ranking system back then? What did it mean to you to be ranked? And did you ever, what was the highest you ever got ranked? So a three-part question.
Yeah. So back then, obviously we didn't have social media, right? We had the magazine we call Hoop Scoop, Hoop Scoop magazine. If you made it to Hoop Scoop magazine, and anywhere in those rankings, top 100, usually it was top 100, you were, pretty elated. considered to be mentioned, considering how many basketball players back then. Your imagination was everything. You had to imagine how big basketball was, how many players was playing basketball, right? So your imagination was allowed to roam. And so if you made that Hoop Scoop magazine, you were like, wow, like, I'm in this now. And so that that was the first time that I really felt like I belonged, with the rest of the upper echelon type players. Um, you had some of the top names in high school at that time. You had, Chris Webber, who, in my city, when you heard about what he was doing in high school, you had Big Dog, Glenn Robinson at that time. And you heard stories. Like you couldn't just pull up on the internet and go, let me go watch this brother's highlight. You heard stories about what they did, and the imagination took over. And that allowed you to kind of, become part of this whole entire process. And so by my junior year, I was, top 10 in the country. I got as high as top 10. And um, it wasn't one of those things where back then it was important. Like when you were ranked, then more likely it was certified. That's who you were. Now these rankings is sliding all over the place and become more watered down, honestly. But back then, because there was less teams, and the way you had to get to the top, meaning there was only a few teams. It wasn't no A, B, C teams. If you were one of the best in your city, you first had to make it on one of those teams. So that automatically kind of solidified you as a top player in the city. Then
Mhm.
amongst those greats, those players, then you had to kind of separate yourself in the All-Star games and the AAU games, which the best players really competed against each other. It wasn't just a showcase. Over time, it evolved into more of a showcase, more of entertainment as the business of basketball has grown. That's a
Mhm.
whole other topic. But for me, the ranking, it did at that time, I think really helped my confidence because again, to the nature of the fact that of what you had to do prior to getting that ranking, if you made it to your city, you're one of those top teams in the city, you were indeed probably one of those better players, right? We didn't have to
Yeah.
guess. This ranking is real. This guy got handlers now. Like, does it people know people? Like, there's all type of things that are coming into the sports arena that questions the ethics and quality of what we're really seeing today.
Yeah. Is he gonna sign with Nike? Is he running with Adidas? Yeah, it's all type of politics. But all right, no,
And
I put
shout
it
out to
down.
these
That's it.
players. I mean, more skilled than ever. Don't get me wrong. This is the most skilled players have been, but because of the system, it has now got you guessing. We've seen players who are talented that don't even, really pan out in college and things of that nature because of your
Mhm.
house of highlights, ball is life, the marketing and platform that these kids have now. It allows them to market themselves earlier in other, shoe companies and things like that as well. So we just got to
Yeah.
do our due diligence and studying these guys' mentality because the mentality will determine if they for real or not. It's not always a skill set.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can see once they get in that juice before the squeeze and then it's gone. They peak early. Like you see it happen all the
Facts.
time now. But what I
Yep.
want to ask, and before I get into Louisville, what were
Yep.
your offers you were getting? And you're from Columbus. Were you an Ohio State fan? Are you an Ohio State fan?
Crazy. That's a hell of a question. I'm a big Ohio State fan. And in fact, I was actually a shoe in for Ohio State. I was determined to go to Ohio State, because that's what I saw coming out of high school. The player that I played with my freshman year, Antonio Watson, who was the number one player in the state at that time, he was going to Ohio State and just signed, and he was 6'9". So I actually had a big who I was actually following up under, who had went to Ohio State. I seen the kind of love he was getting for the city. Jim Jackson was obviously is from Ohio, another big time player, was at Ohio State at that time, and I was going to all the games, man. I was at all the games, and so I was just waiting my time. But when it came about, obviously going back to your question, I was recruited by all the top schools, Michigan, North Carolina. Dean Smith came to my school, in my last period class as a senior. I didn't have classes, so I get a chance to meet with certain coaches who come in. coach from Notre Dame, all the big time coaches. I went on my visit to Michigan, uh, with Steve Fisher and all those guys. And so, um, but I think for me, and like Derek Anderson, who was a good friend of mine at the time, ended up going to Kentucky, transferring from Ohio State. At that time, I got an opportunity to be introduced to Louisville, which was 2.5 hours away from home, still coasting up from home, but it presented a unique opportunity. Denny Crum, who was a Hall of Fame coach, uh, was losing a senior, uh, actually a high level player, Clifford Rozier, who went on to play in the NBA at that time, and so that position opened up. And Denny Crum never promised anything to me. He said, "If you are who you think you are, here's a platform. You have an opportunity to show what you're about." And for me, being a competitor and somebody who wanted to be coached to be the best I can be, that was an opportunity like no other. So I took it and ran with it, and then the rest was history.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, I got a couple Louisville questions, but just a quick question that just made me
Yeah,
think about. What would Samaki
yep.
Walker be getting an NIL? Had NIL been around? And how do you guide your daughter like through dealing with that process?
Wow, that's a great question. Considering top 10 now, man, I mean, it's a bag out there. You talking about these guys are getting like $1 million sometimes, 300, 400,000, 500,000. Uh, hey, so this all real talk. Since we being honest, this being um, you know, respecting your platform, drop a gem. And so obviously we didn't have NIL, but there was under the table dealings at that time. So I had about 75 grand, available if, I made that decision, just keep it at 100. So, which I never saw because it ended up getting stolen, by a coach, but that's here nor there. Uh, never seen the money. But at that time, that's what, you know, uh, I was, valued at that time. So today, I think you could do that probably 10 times over, considering the
Oh,
visibility of players now, where the money is. Players are more marketable than ever. Really determines everything. And you got to understand in the platform of college, what the college meant for the NBA. The NBA appreciate players who go to college because it allows them a couple years to be known and marketable, right? Well, now you got Ballers Life, you got all these platforms that are marketing kids in high school. So you already a household name. The Ball brothers, for example, what they were able to do in the social media era. You now can become a star. And now a lot of these colleges, they want you to have a social media platform. And and that comes with because of the power behind it and the eyes that are on it. So I think that my worth would have been very high, at that time. Speaking of my daughter, it was just a great question, man. And I was very impressed with her ability because on our last visit to just recently to Cal, she decided she was going to leave South Carolina, won a national championship, didn't play much, but wanted a bigger, platform for herself. So we visited SMU. They offered her, what they offered. Then we end up going to Cal and we compared the two offers. And with her, all I had to do was be a fly on the wall, and be able to listen and give her information as she needed. But what I love about her, my daughter is sharp. She understood what she was looking for. She had gone through the adversity. A little bit about her story. She started out in at Rutgers. Uh, Unfortunately, uh, the coach there, who she thought she was going to end up playing for, who was a Hall of Fame coach, ended up retiring. I kind of told her at the beginning that that might happen. However, she ended up signing anyway. That's exactly what happened. Ended up playing for the assistant coach. Things didn't go well, so she ended up having some adversity. Ended up losing interest. End up leaving Rutgers because of her grades drop. She had to go to JUCO. And what I love about her story of resilience is that she went down to JUCO, became the National Player of the Year, won the national championship. Then all the D1 schools came calling back. So now She goes from Rutgers down to JUCO, build herself up. Now she gets a call from Don Staley in South Carolina, go wins a national championship. So now she's getting real experience in real time and seeing how all this works. Yeah, she's part of a national champion team, but she didn't have a big role. So now she's saying, okay, now I want a bigger role. In comes the visits, SMU, Al, who were the top. There were several other schools, but those I thought presented unique opportunities for her to play right now, which is what she wanted. So I go on a visit SMU. I thought she was going to sign. She was like, no, I'm going to go on this last visit. We went to Cowes the last visit. And she had a number in mind already. Already. This had nothing to do with me. She had a number in mind already on her, and she negotiated an extra 50 racks. I'm like, yo, an extra 50 racks in addition to what she got. And that's, she got over 200. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
imagine that. Girls
yeah.
basketball 200. So you understand what the boys are getting. And this was a player who I'm so impressed because she still understood her value. Even though she didn't play at South Carolina, she didn't let that bother her value and how she negotiated. So as a dad, not only was I supporting her, but I was learning on the fly about my daughter and how resilient she was. And so I admire her in real time because when the coach came out, I'm sitting, the coach said, oh, yeah, I got that extra 50 for you, too. I'm like, extra 50? I'm like, damn, I'm
She
looking at my
negotiated. And
daughter.
what they say on Martin,
She,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
and that way I'm like, looking like, wow. I was like, damn, I was at a proud pops moment. And I realized that, you know what? This is what it's all about. As parents, we raise our kids hopefully to be independent and be able to make these type of decisions. So for me to be able to see that in real time, dog, that was amazing.
No, that is awesome. Actually, I will. There's the Pivot podcast with like Ryan Clark. They just interviewed John Brown, whose son Saint Brown plays in the NFL. You should watch that. But yeah, I'm a two-time girl dad myself, so I love to hear that, man. Love to hear that. All right, Louisville. I want to touch on Louisville just a little bit. So first I want you played with DeJuan Wheat, who had one of the best jumpers I ever seen. Who is your Louisville Mount Rushmore of basketball?
Woo, that's tough. Um, Man, shout out to Wheat though. You're right, he had one of the sweetest. You definitely watch basketball. If you know DeJuan Wheat, you know that thing was sweet.
Yep.
Um, I'm going with Daryl Griffith, top five. Um, Never Nervous Purvis, doing what he did as a friend, who was somebody who I looked up to and seeing what he did as a freshman and that he's who motivated me. You heard Purvis Ellison and what he was able to do at Louisville. The bar is already raised, right? And so my success came from what I visualized him doing. So when I seen her, I mean blocks he had, I'm like, oh man, that's what I want. So shout out to Purvis Ellison for raising the bar. Uh, he's on my Mount Rushmore. Ah, you got already said Dr. Duncan Stein, Daryl Griffith, maybe man, Roddy McCray, obviously. Rodney McCray, the McCray brothers was real. Rodney McCray, top three. Man, sheesh. Look, Wheat was sweet. Wheat was one of my I mean, I thought if he was bigger, Wheat would have been in the NBA for sure. But watching his talent, what he was doing the guards and at Louisville,
Or
man.
these days in this league?
Yeah, this day in this league, yeah, he was perfect for this league, bro. I mean, the way he was off the bounce with the shot and the jump. Uh, Weed
How
is in
about
my
Donovan
top
Mitchell?
five, man. That's right. Got to put Donovan in there, dog. That's tough. Got to put Donovan in there. I got to put one guy in, man. I got to put Weed. There's some other guys at Louisville, man, who, look, man, Louisville got some talent. Has some guys
Mm.
that can go even after us. But Donovan Mitchell was definitely in there. Daryl Griffith, Roddy McCray, Never Nervous Purvis, And sheesh, that's tough. That fifth one,
Now, that's good. That's good.
that's a
We
lot
we
of
we Mount
guys in
Rushmore, so
there.
that's four. You good. You good on that one. All right.
Yeah, there it is.
One last Louisville question, and I kind of want to take you back. And it's funny, I've been following you for a while, so I feel like you got kind of like a reader's mindset. So like I want to try to get some imagery on this one, but I want to take you back to that 11 block day where you got that first triple double in Louisville school history. What kind of zone would you say you got in that game, and what was the aftermath, if you could remember, even if it was a party?
No, absolutely. Well, first, I'll remember, I remember my dad is always a good motivator, man. And watching me before that game and said, big fella, you're gonna have to play this game. I remember looking at him and said, I got you. I knew right before the game, I got you. And the players that did an incredible job because obviously I was a freshman and you had heard about the story of the UK Louisville rivalry, which is what it was. And, we had actually went up to UK up to Lexington like a week before, a couple weeks before we played them, man. And it was interesting as a freshman. I didn't know what to expect, went to one of the parties and all this stuff and ended up almost getting into it. And so that the whole energy behind that game was already created. You know what I mean? And again, my father, right before the game, just speaking with him, he knew the right things to say. And actually, he thought y'all gonna lose this game. And one of those things, he knew I'm a competitor. When you say stuff like that, it was gonna help me elevate my game. And that's exactly what happened. And the rest was history, man. I was confident in my defensive ability. That's something that I was a natural at. The scoring thing was, it wasn't the biggest part of my game. I was always taught that you had to impact the game. The game is about impact. Scoring was just one way. So for me, I knew at 6'9", I can go off the vert, grab my shot out the air, off the vert. And that was my unique ability. I didn't care if you were 7 feet, how tall you were. I was explosive and quick off. So I had a incredible confidence and my rim protection abilities. And so uh, that's what I wanted to do right away. I wanted to establish that respect. I knew Kentucky, who they were. Shout out to them. They ended up winning the championship that year anyway, just to show you the powerhouse that they were. Uh, but hey, playing with, the players that I played with at that time. Rogers, shout out to Tick Rogers, who led the country in steals that year. We had two dynamic teams. We had Tony Delk. We had two guys that were 6'8". They had Walter McCarty that was 6'9", hand on the ball. We had Jason Osborne, 6'9", hand on the ball, both jump out the gym. So you had a unique group right there. Tony Delk, DeJuan Wheat, and so if you know, you know. And Shepard, whose son now in the Houston Rockets jumped out the gym. White boy that had a 40-plus-inch vertical leap that could put it on your head and could shoot the three ball. And you know how they got up and down the floor. How Kentucky and Rick played. And so for me, I had a high respect, and that game came out of the respect that I had for the team and what they had accomplished, and Rick Pitino and how he had those boys mentally and physically prepared. Their bodies looked different. Pat, I mean, he reminded me of Pat Riley, like that. Your team was going to look like it. They dressed in suits. They came in. It was about business. And you got that when Kentucky came in. Like you had the respect by the way they carried themselves. So I just remember being mentally prepared and I wanted to leave my impact and understand that there's certain games, if you want to play at the next level, that you've got an opportunity to showcase. And that was one of them. And I understood that profoundly. That the after effect was Louisville went crazy. Louisville hadn't beaten Kentucky in years. And so from a rival standpoint, the fact that we won, I mean, we here talking about it, what, 30 years later? I mean, 20 something years later, 20 something years later. So that's the type of impact a game like that can have on your career and your legacy, man. And so I'm very thankful for the Louisville fans and the people who supported us. And obviously, man, my teammates who believed in me, being a freshman and giving me the confidence to come in and do what I did.
Yeah, no, man, that is a moment. And Tony Delk is a name, one of the most unknown 50-point games you ever seen in NBA history. Shout out Tony Delk. And I think didn't Kentucky almost win it again, but lost to the Wildcats the next year? They were
Yep.
definitely a powerhouse. Definitely a
Yeah,
powerhouse.
totally.
Yeah. So
Always
I
in it,
want to,
man. And you knew. Yep, go ahead.
oh no, I just wanted to bridge this, and this is kind of the last on college, but I wanted to kind of bridge it into the NBA. So you being a Louisville guy, Antoine Walker being a Kentucky guy, you guys both got the same last name. You guys are battling each other in college. You're so close in the draft. What was the relationship with Antoine Walker? Just curiously.
Well, I'm gonna keep it real. We didn't have much of a relationship, but I would say this, and in all truth and honesty, Antoine Walker was the guy that my dad wanted me to play like. And you can understand, I got a chance to see Antoine Walker in high school. My dad was a visionary. He seen the game changing, right? Bigs handling the ball and whatnot. My dad was a 6'5" guy who could handle the ball more like a Julius Erving type. And so he believed in movement and things of that nature. So my fundamentals and everything I was taught came from that. My dad had a unique eye and understanding of the game, really sharp. And it was about handling the ball. So anytime we would do practice, it was drills handling the ball, making decisions and things of that nature. I was comfortable with, again, my shot blocking ability, my defense. That was my comfort zone. And he wanted me out of my comfort zone where I was more relying in my comfort zone. Still able to impact the game, but totally believe that if I would have followed that path, I would have been even a much better player with my abilities and what I was able to do defensively. If I would have been more consciously aware and comfortable with developing those aspects at that time, I mean, there's no telling where my ceiling would have been. And so this is why I understand as a father and how I handle my kids as well. You know, so Antoine Walker, when I first seen him in high school out of Chicago, we played him in Ohio. They came up, and first time I got a chance to see him, I'm like, okay, he ain't dunking the ball, but super athletic guy. And at that time in your head, you're thinking these are the killers. Guys tearing the rim off, dunking, doing all this kind of stuff. And he comes in and just like the second coming of Magic Johnson on us, just boom, bodying, big guard, handling the ball, shoot the three when he opened. That was the first time where I seen the dude, and he was just highly confident. You saw it. Like, even looked at me like sideways, like, man, like, and I remember that. And that right there stuck with me because it was like, damn, where you move up and start seeing dudes who are as good or better than you, and you start really appreciating the game. And so I thought, be honest, at that time when I see he was one of the first players that I saw, I thought that I really thought that was better than me. You know what I mean? And had a bigger understanding of the game. I had the ability, I could impact the game, run the floor, dunk, all the things. But when it came to seeing the game, playing it, controlling it, the way he dictate the game, he was a better player. And so that's what I remember about Antoine. And look, he got drafted number 7. I got drafted number 9. So obviously there were some other people who saw those same things I saw, right? And you go into his career and what he was able to do in the NBA, inside, outside, mid post, never an athletic guy, just that guy who was high basketball IQ, 6'9", can shoot the three, and
Yeah.
was legit, man. Shout out to Antoine Walker.
Yeah, and ain't it funny that you guys could have met in the finals too? But we'll get on to all that.
Right.
People,
Facts.
and I'll say kids need to pay more attention to Antoine Walker, like career. Even when you look at the Boston Celtics and what Paul Pierce did later, like people act like that was the beginning of his career. No, he almost reached the mountaintop with Antoine Walker, and they were pretty formidable. But okay, going into the draft, what was the lead up like? Like even if you want to give like personal, like what's it like family dynamic when they know your life's about to change like that? And did you have an idea of where you were going?
Well, actually, I didn't at first. Uh, First of all, when I left school, uh, then it was a tough decision because your coaches at that time weren't interested in these 1, 2 and done and things of that nature. Then he had a vision for me being there obviously a lot longer. So when I went to him about asking him what he thought and could he help me in this process, he said he had already talked and it was 15 to 25, somewhere around that, and that number, and he didn't think I was ready. And so I kind of made the decision that, from what I was hearing, I had heard from different agents, people like that, that the numbers, the slot for me was a lot lower. So I made the decision, end up moving to Jersey. I ended up leaving school. Once I made the decision, I moved to New Jersey, ended up getting a place in South Brunswick, New Jersey. And Ted Fiore was my coach. Ted Fiore trained a lot of players. And one of the things he had me working on was my ball handling, shooting, like off ball stuff, everything. And I credit him because in my workouts, I was killing it. And after the workouts, they was impressed. I was able to handle the ball and shoot the ball, which is weird because I can actually shoot the three. I can shoot the ball. I was just very comfortable in my role and never wanted to expand outside of that. And if I would have done that, I would have probably had a much longer career. And this is why we should, this is good to understand what younger players. So when you see your younger players who you looking at, damn man, he good. Or he could be much better than what he's doing. A lot of times you seeing players who are comfortable, settled in their roles, right? And you may see their ceiling being here, but in their own mind, this is what they're comfortable doing. And that's a real thing. And so um, for me, it was just what was the last part of your question again? The
Uh, Excuse me. Oh, where were you, or did you know just where you were expecting to
yeah,
go?
the
But
family and everything, right?
the family, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So then you got the family dynamics. Obviously, I'm the youngest of seven. So for me, that was it was a very interesting time. Obviously, it's nothing like when you have a big family and all of them are proud of you. You want everybody there. So it's a task. You got to get everybody flown. Now you begin to understand the pressures of what it's like to actually making it. Because now, you got to start getting flights here, flights there. Now you realize, oh, I need an assistant. I need all this. You become a different person instantly the minute that people realize that you're going to the draft. Expectations change overnight, not just from people, from your own family members. And so, but at the same time, it's one of the most rewarding, going back, looking at my mom and her face when they called my name. Um, it's worth all the grind, the grit, the adversity, everything. When you have that opportunity to see your mom, she crying at the table and the camera zooms in on her, and you can just see the years and years and years of all the hard work that they sacrifice for you, all that emotion come out, man, and that means the world to you. And that's your first motivation going into the NBA. Now you want that money. You want to make mom and dad, you want to put them up in a nice place. Because that rookie money is good, but now you want to make it to where mom and dad, don't have to work on. And so that's definitely on your mind. And I remember because I was living there that AI and all the other guys, I ended up having a party, after party, draft party. All of them showed up. So it was cool, man. I got a picture that with Iverson, Canby, all those guys there at my party. And I think we standing over a cake or something, whatever it may be. But it was a cool experience, man. I'm telling you, it was just one of those one in a lifetime things that you can't ever recreate again. And you gotta enjoy the moment because it is one in a lifetime.
Yeah, gotta be quite a dopamine release, man. Now, obviously, you end up
Oh
in Dallas, and I'm gonna stay away from the Tony Braxton stuff because to me that's one of the
yeah.
weirdest NBA stories with no closure. Like I've always thought that was weird. But I want to start with two of the Jays. I want to start with Jim Jackson and Jamal Mashburn. What
Yeah.
was their potential? What was it like just seeing them up close when you come in as a rookie? Like what did you see in those two specifically?
Hey man, that's a great question. I mean, you're talking about two guys who were studs at the position. Jim Jackson, 6'5", solid body. You know what I'm saying? And just real simple, knew how it was strong, could get to his spots. There was nothing really big and herky jerky, a big guard, right? And Jamal Mashburn with footwork at the three spot was 6'8", about 250, with every spin in his game had touch. step back, little fadeaways, stuff like that. It was a monster, especially in the mid post. Just kill you, could stretch you to the three. Uh, Getting a chance to see them in college, I got a chance to really fall in love with both of those guys' games and really appreciate what they brought to the table. Uh, Both of them had like 50-point games. I know like Jimmy had one on like Mike, and I think Mash might have had one on like Pippen. So just to show you the level of their talent, they were upper echelon type players. It was just a opportunity in Dallas that didn't manifest because of certain circumstances. Obviously having the three J's, one ball. You got egos. You got to figure out, okay, who's going to be the main man. Now, once you understand who the main man, you guys are role players. What do your role players do? You got role players need to cut, move, and do all the unselfish things. A lot of times when you get stars on the team, everybody's standing around, want the ball, my turn, your turn. You can't win a lot of games like that. You can get players to get their numbers, but be able to win, there's a certain type of synergy. There's a certain type of flow and movement that has to happen within the game in order to be successful. And
Mm,
that's not always glamorous. And with that being said, this is what impacts a lot of teams from reaching the promised land is that you got these internal rifts, whether it comes from agents, whether it comes from players' families and they're listening to, you got all these outside forces that play a huge role in the progress of an individual player. And oftentimes that's not understood, by the masses, but it really sometimes comes down to little things like that, why your
mm,
player may not reach their potential or be able to impact the game, as such. And
yeah,
but both of those guys were elite. Shout out to Mashburn because at that time when Dallas was beginning to seem like it was falling apart, I watched Jason Kidd around halftime get traded. So that was a really tough, stark reality of how this business worked. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And then I know Jimmy was gone after that. Then I think Jamal, the last three Jays, was the last one to get traded. And I remember at that time, I was young, I was frustrated. And I remember saying something to Jamal about, how I was going to act out. And I was pissed about, Don Nelson that came in and cleaned house with all these guys. And he looked at me and said, young fella, he said, that ain't the way to do it. He said, number one, you can't win doing it your way. And it was a very humbling, short experience I had with him, but it was a very powerful moment where my mindset was of the immaturity and the lack of experience of how this business worked. I was on the verge of probably making a wrong decision, an emotional decision, who in that real time got some real information from a veteran player who probably helped me save my career, just by
you
off information and giving me
you
a
want to share
vision.
that emotional decision? I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, was it the decision where, at that time, like I said, they Jim Clemens, who was from Columbus, where I'm from, drafted me. So you can understand Jim Clemens was an icon. You know, there was something who my dad had talked about and several of the local basketball players and in our city who had made names for themselves. And Jim Clemens was one of those. So it was ironic that I was drafted by Jim Clemens, who was obviously, um, you know, the assistant coach with the Lakers as well, and probably had a lot to do with, me getting there. So when I seen how they did Jim Clemens, I was already had a bad taste in my mouth. I just felt like
Mm,
it was negative energy. The players wasn't playing for him, and then when they came in and just cut him after, shit, he didn't even finish, his contract out. It was like a year and a half, maybe or less. It
man,
already left a bad taste, yeah. And then seeing the locker room was totally dysfunctional. I've never seen anything like that locker room. It was totally dysfunctional. Nobody wasn't talking. There was no communication. Nobody was hanging out, and it was a really tough environment for a rookie like myself to walk into. And so I developed just a negative mindset. So this is for young players. This is why it's important for young players to come into the right situation, right? and be around the right veteran players who that when you got young players who are immature and still trying to find their identity, they can rely on that veteran information, to help them create their own identity and platform within the league. And so for me, I was just like I said, that emotional response was the response of a not understanding where I fit in. I'm seeing players get traded. And as a player, the first thing you want is some stability, right? Stability allows you to just focus on basketball. I've seen none of that. I wasn't sure what Don Nelson. I didn't have this really close relationship. He had just came in and clean house. I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, you talking about everybody. Now I'm the only player that's left. Like you don't see stuff like that happen, and at that time it was the largest trade in NBA history. I think it's like a three team trade and all of that stuff. So, in
Hmm.
that time I seen Sam Cassell come and go. That's when Steve Nash came. I had seen Khalil Reeves guard. I seen multiple bigs and guards just come road in that 3 year span there. And so I had kind of just got wore out, not knowing where we were going. We weren't on TV, so none of my homies, nobody was getting a chance to see me play. When I did play and I did well, we was just at we were the bottom feeders, and as somebody who was a competitor, real competitor, because I play to win. I don't play for numbers. I'll sacrifice numbers and play to win. I'm a true competitor, and the fact that we were losing was hard for me to swallow. And don't forget, Dallas offered me an extension contract. I turned it down to go
Hmm.
play behind Tim Duncan because
Hmm.
I didn't want to be on a losing team. It wasn't about the money with me. I saw enough. And so when it came time, I said, I'm going to play my way out of this. Don Nelson gave me a bone. He said, okay. He didn't bring me in. He had got rid of everybody he didn't bring in. So let me see what this Walker kid can do. He started putting the ball in my hand. Long story short, I'm balling out. Again, nobody knows. I had some 2020 games, 20 points, 20 rebounds. I'm playing against some of my peers, the Kemps, um, some of the big name power forwards, and I'm having some great games. So now this was good for my confidence because now I knew I belonged. That's all I
Hmm.
needed to see. And so when it came time to make a decision, Don Nelson, okay, offered me the deal. I turned it down and things got
And
real
this is
bad.
before Mark Cuban. And shout out Don Nelson because he rebuilt the team. He did, and they did well, leading in like the early 2000s up and all the way up into the championship. But yeah, this is even before
Totally,
Cuban, right?
totally. Shot, let me tell you something. My story I'm describing now is something where it's about the disconnect and understanding. What Don Nelson did for Dallas, you can't take nothing away. It was
Yeah,
great. What he did in building them, watching the young Dirk come in and building that team from the ground up, bringing in Nash, Michael Finley. He changed the culture. The culture helped build what they did in Dallas. So
yeah,
um, it was just, I had gone through so much already, and not knowing Don Nelson personally and not knowing what he was trying to do and seeing what he had did, there was a lot of uneasy feelings, real understanding that tomorrow I could be up out of there, not knowing.
yeah,
And in fact, I thought it was a matter of time. I thought he just wanted his own, and he wasn't communicating at that time with me what his vision was. I don't even think they knew at the time. They just knew they
yeah.
wanted to start over. So for
But he
me,
did want to keep you. Mhm.
that he did. Money talking, BS walk. So if for any young player out there trying to figure it out, it's money talking, BS walk. For me, it was just one of those. Again, I had the opportunity. I understood who I was at that time and what I can do at the NBA level within those games allocated for me. And
Okay.
and I wanted to win. And so I was willing to go play behind Tim Duncan. I'll do something that you wouldn't see in NBA players, right? Tim Duncan isn't
Yeah.
my peer. Somebody that I played against Sweet 16 who eliminated me. You know, my final college career was through Tim Duncan. So by 1 point in the Sweet 16, but I knew that I needed to grow. and I would do anything to put myself in a situation to learn. That's number one. The money will come, right? All these narratives, the NBA, everybody controls these narratives. One thing I understood is that I'm a quick learner. I may not know today, but if you put me around somebody who knows how to teach, that's what the coaches always appreciated about my ability is that they can teach me something and I can implement it right away. It didn't take me long. And I understood that about myself. And so playing behind Tim Duncan, get a chance to be coaching the Popovich helped prepare me for the Lakers. So I took control of my career. And it came with its adversity because after I made the decision to turn down the money, Don Nelson benched me. I went from starting to coming off the bench. In fact, it wasn't just benching. He tried to break me because I don't think he was used to a player exercising that kind of player uh, um, individuality and as far as taking control of my career. He thought I was just going to take the money. And when I didn't, it was a slap in the face. So I went from starting and playing to not playing it at all. Sometimes he put me in the last minute and a half of the game to break me. And it almost did. It almost did. It definitely lowered the value. And then at the end of the season, though, all those top teams came calling, after I decided I was going to leave. And that was the rest was history. I decided to go play behind Tim Duncan and David Robinson and learn. That was huge for me. It was probably one of the best decisions I made in regards to understanding what it took to win, the culture, the type of coaching, the type of role players, how all that came together from management. For me, my first experience was in San Antonio.
Well, and before we go basketball, because Texas is like its own country, right? It feels like that almost.
Facts.
What's the difference in
Fa-
lifestyle between like Dallas and San Antonio?
Woo! Hey, man, there's definitely a difference. That's a great question. I mean, don't sleep on San Antonio though, because San Antonio ain't like what everybody think it is. It's some it's some interesting, entertaining spots in San Antonio, Texas, that you can find to make use of your time when you're not playing basketball. Let's just say that. Dallas is a city of what's so unique about Dallas is you got young African Americans who got some money. And I ain't talking about just athletes. You got a lot of corporations there. You got a young African Americans who came from other cities to work for these corporations. And so the nightlife in Dallas, the social life is incredible. Probably one of the best I've been a part. Even more so for me in LA than LA, because you have, young, I'm talking about late 20s and 30 something already cemented in their careers and things of that nature. And so when you do the first Fridays events, it's nothing to see a lot of us come out
Hmm.
having their stuff together, right? So that was for me being a young guy introduced into that realm. That was very unique and incredible experience in Dallas. Uh, you got everything that you need. Obviously, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, so for me that was get a
Hmm.
chance to see prime time in um, their hay in Dallas and watch how the city just responded around the Cowboy. That's Dallas. That's Cowboy man country, right? So
Yeah.
seeing the playmaker, Michael Irvin, seeing Prime, seeing them, just getting a chance to see them from afar doing their thing. That was when I knew I made it.
Yeah, that's like being around the Showtime Lakers almost, man. All right, back to San Antonio now, because I want to talk when we get to the Lakers about Phil Jackson. What was the Coach Pop experience like for what you can give us from your eyes?
Pop was the ultimate man's man. Obviously knows military background, and you know, usually those guys are stand-up guys, straightforward, tell you what they not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. That was probably the most important thing for me, and Don Nelson was one of those guys too, just totally different the way he delivered it. Pop was he was straightforward. He had a nurturing spirit at the same time. He got to know a little bit about you, what made you tick, and then he would push you to be the best version of yourself. Um, he got on Timmy and Dave just like he got on anybody else. And that's one thing you respected. That's how you earn the respect of the entire team, when you're able to push your stars the same way you would push a role player. And that he did unapologetically. And when you see that, you know, it's easy for you to get in line and stay in line. Very, very, Pop was real, man. If you can play, especially for me, backing up power forward Tim Duncan, and then coming up at center, backing up with David Robinson, he entrusted that in me, you know, and I played both of those positions. Sometimes I would come in at power forward, come back out, come back in at center. So for me, that gave me tremendous confidence that a coach like Pop believed in my ability to impact the game. And he was
Mhm.
always there to talk to, man, and real talk. You know, if it was something that you were going through and you needed to understand and figure out on the court, he was there, you know, and he wasn't going to give you no BS. You just felt like everything was genuine. You know, it wasn't where he was, you know, telling you this and you knew it really meant that. If Pop said it,
Yeah.
that's what it meant. And he meant it.
His word meant
Uh,
something in a league
his
where they'll tell you something and then get you out of here 10 minutes later. Um, Also, you said Tim Duncan eliminated you in college. What was it like practicing with Tim Duncan? And is he the best power forward ever for you?
Tim Duncan, you know, that was an incredible experience. You know, that year I got eliminated. I played both him and Canby that year, and both times lost by 1 point. And those were great measuring sticks for me personally, because I thought both of those guys were better than I was. But it would give me an opportunity to see how much, where was the measuring stick. And I had, you know, solid games against both those guys. And so I knew that for me, win or lose, I belong. Uh, it was a hard pill to swallow, considering that you know, I got beat by Tim Duncan, and it's a harder pill to swallow knowing that I had 4 fouls on him with a couple minutes left and the coach went away. People at Louisville still trying to figure out why coach made that decision, but that's here nor there. You know, Tim Duncan walks away with the victory. But again, it's a learning experience, man. You know, you don't take those things personally. You learn from it. That's what it's about. And my goal was always to make it to the highest level. And along that journey, you're going to meet players that are just simply better than you know,
Yeah.
and
Did you guys
you
battle
get
though? Like in practice? Was it battles when you were
it
on the same
always
team?
it, it was battles. And again, for me, some of the practices was much better than the games. You know, you talk to some players, they'll tell you that the practices were as intense behind the scenes, because now you get some of those role players who may not be as productive when the lights are on. Behind the scenes, you start seeing those guys getting the element. Sometimes you see your superstar players get handled by some of the role players, and the difference between them is simply mentality. This guy here can do it when the lights on, and this guy here does it in practice. So those
Mm.
practice games can get intense. And you know, but for me, it was just about again, I recognized Tim Duncan was I thought in my mind was better than me. And I'm a realist. And I credit my dad for that. When you start talking about impact of the game, I saw impact a certain way. It wasn't just about scoring. All the things he did impacted winning, and he was consistent. That's the word that stands out. He was the most consistent player. And yes, will he is he the best power forward to ever play the game? In my mind, yes. Fundamentals, what he was able to do offensively, defensively, consistent in and out against everybody, whatever they threw at him, double teams, what have not. Yeah, he's definitely in my mind the best power forward that, you know, a lot
Yeah,
of
I
people may
agree.
say, you know, Karl Malone, but I watched him give Karl Malone 40, 44, 45 points like it wasn't nothing. And Karl Malone
Yeah.
had no answer for him. So
And I'm
shout
fast
out to,
tracking a little bit, but and I won't. I'm gonna come back, but like what I seen him do to the Lakers in 2003 was terrifying. But I want to go back to 2001 from your perspective while you're on the Spurs, and it's crazy because you didn't play too much versus the Lakers in the series where Kobe went off. against
Yeah,
the Spurs. I think he had like 45 game one, 40 games, something 36.
yeah.
But what was it like watching that Lakers team as a Spur when they were eliminating you? And if you can add anything, what was Greg Popovich or what was going on in the locker room while you guys were losing to them?
Well, first, I didn't play much at all because my role at that time was to save fouls. You had a player like Shaq who was as dominant as he was. Dave couldn't stop him. Tim couldn't stop him. That version of Shaq was a monster, was a nightmare. And I was just keeping it all the way funky. And I remember the look on Dave's face when, you know, he had to guard Shaq. It was just a look of helplessness. And I remember vividly in the locker room, Popovich challenging Dave. Dave was like, "What you want me to do?" I remember the exact words, "What you want me to do?" Like, ain't nothing I can do. And when you hear that, you know that the writing might be on the wall. Um, obviously Tim was had to guard him as well, and you try to protect Tim, and then you got the other guys, myself. You had Big Felton Spencer at that time coming in bench who we all had fouls, and I remember Shaq just bullying Dave, and I remember him putting Felton Spencer, Louisville. Shout out to Felton Spencer, rest in peace. Uh, you know, Big Teddy Bear, who was a great guy, who was at Louisville. I mean, was a great player for Louisville. Also played with me at the Spurs. 7 feet, almost 300 pounds, big guy. Uh, and you start talking about Shaq size. He was the only guy on our team that came close to that. And I remember Popovich putting him in, wanting to get the fouls. And I remember him coming in and Shaq looking over at him, telling him, "If you foul me, I'm gonna you up." And so that was the the most interesting. I know Kobe had the dominant numbers, but everything was built around trying to stop Shaq. That was just the reality because it took two guys to try to guard him, and then it took three guys to reserve fouls because you knew two or three guys were simply two guys were going to foul out. That's just the reality. So that was your game plan. Yeah, Kobe did all the numbers and everything, but the game plan was built around to stop Shaq, and you literally had to reserve fouls throughout the game just to make sure that your team was in it, not to get blown out. Right? That reserving fouls was just a strategy, to be able to kind of win and put Shaq at the line, try to slow him down. Because like when the big fella wanted to play, like two guys, the double teams didn't matter. It just simply he was too explosive. He had the footwork, no touch around the basket, and when he wanted to go straight power, there wasn't a coach in the world. There's nothing you can do to coach against that. So that
Yeah.
was that.
I appreciate that. No, that was a great answer. Great answer. All right, and then you
Yeah.
obviously end up going to the Lakers the next year, which amazing. Now, what I want to ask, you had I don't know if it was Kobe and Shaq and Jerry West or Kobe and Shaq and Phil, but I seen you said you had voicemails from a combination of those three players. Did you have any relationship with any of them prior to that? Or,
None at all. None at all. I had obviously there had been people keeping up with my journey after I left Dallas, right? Uh, I had no idea, the teams that would be requiring my services while I was with the Spurs. It was just an incredible platform. Shout out to Popovich. When I came in the game, like he gave me similar plays to like Tim Duncan, to that four I, where we call it, four plays post up. He would give me those same plays and allow me. That's how much confidence I had in my abilities. And so when Tim Duncan got hurt in the playoffs, my first year, I want to say it was my first year, I came in and did really well, and again, one of those games like in college, that triple double in Louisville history. There are certain games and times and opportunity, especially in the playoffs, you get to show the rest of the league that you're your value. And I thought that's what I did in that opportunity. Um, that kind of solidified things moving forward. So, no, I didn't have a relationship with any of the players. In fact, I was getting ready to get released by the Spurs. Actually, no, let's take that forward. I did get released by the Spurs because of my own stupid actions. riding motorcycles in the summer, doing things that you wasn't supposed to be doing as an athlete, put me in a compromising situation. And I put myself in that situation. And Popovich, again, going back to the, a man's man and his expectations of the players, I didn't meet up to those expectations and begin to my actions brought negative attention to a locker room and a culture that was created around, discipline, structure, things of that nature. And so he was just honest. He said, yo, he said, man, I love you, Maki. I'm gonna start playing Malik. And I had to bite it. And so the rest of that season, I knew that the writing was on the wall. I get released. Now I'm at home. That's why I'm in my basement. So that's be real how I get to my basement.
Mm.
Now I'm in my basement. I'm contemplating, I'm a free agent, not knowing what's next. I'm down and what's this is all around the time 9/11 and everything was happening. So the world was going through some crazy times at the time. I was going through my own personal issues. And so then I get a phone call. My lights buzzing. I'm down, in my basement. I got a big bar in the basement and everything. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And when I created the situation, uh, the lights started buzzing and I'm looking at the voicemail and it's shit. Damn, it's magic. You know, and I'm seeing it. Actually, it's three. They had all had called me already. And I'm going through my voicemail. I hear one from Magic. And I hear one from Shaq. And the third one is cold. I'm like, this real? Like, man, like, no way. I was in a dream, man. I did so. I would probably listen to the messages 20 times, right? So, and then, that sense of wanting came back, right? I had gone through the adversity, again, self-inflicted, but uh, it's crazy how the universe sometimes can put you back in the game, can teach you a lesson and say, I'm gonna give you another opportunity. Here it is. Not everybody gets that. And so I'm very fortunate that that opportunity had landed in my lap. And for me, I had turned down money. Again, you had the Hornets that offered me more money. We had several teams who had offered me more money to come in and play. But, you know, Shaq's voicemail said, look, you got an opportunity to come in and play a huge role and win a championship. That's what I needed to hear. It was never just about the money. You got to understand that I thought that every player who's making NBA money is making good money, right? There's some who make a lot more than others, but if you save your money and if you're financially stable, if you're a guy who's making $1 million a year, $2 million a year, look, bro, like you don't got nothing to be complaining about. That's my opinion. And I still can't stand when these players who make millions of dollars complain about. And I'm not no pocket watcher. I think players deserve what they get, but when you talk about greater society and the people who didn't, I watched my parents who didn't have that money. So my respect around that is built from what I saw coming up as a kid and
Hmm.
watching my parents grind and build take care of a family, not nearly with the financial backing that I had. And so for me, it was
Yeah.
just that allowed me to be able to see things and put the money part of it aside, not be the big motivating factor, and allow the real me. And that's what the challenge. The challenge. I was replacing Horace Grant, who I highly respected, who I thought in my mind was one of the best role players in NBA history because of what he
Oh
was
yeah.
able to do with multiple teams, in my opinion, and don't get enough credit. So I come in, I'm eager because now again I got a chance to replace an NBA champion, Horace Grant. That was who, for me, to be honest, was why one of my big decisions because he was somebody who I highly respected. Uh, and I thought it was a unique opportunity to come in and showcase that I can help a team win.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that choice. And it's interesting. I read like the Three Ring Circus book. I wish I had it so you could run through some excerpts to see if they was true or not. But that was in there also. Now, what was it like? What was the relationship with Robert Horry when you first came in? Because I believe you started pretty much most of the regular season, right?
Right, right. Well, it was. Look, Robert was aging and no longer could play those consistent minutes throughout a season. You understand, he was one of the older players on the team at that time. And so his legs were declining. Robert didn't have no brakes. Like it took him a runway to stop. But this is why he was always in the right place. Robert wasn't doing a lot of all that running around moving. Like Robert going to sit in the right place. And his basketball IQ, he always knew how to be in the right place. And at that time, the West had emerged as a real formidable force amongst the power forward position. Tim Duncan, you can bring Elton Brand, into that. Then you had guys, young guys still coming, Antonio McDyess. And that was even before the what's my guy in Phoenix? The young
Amari Stoudemire.
Maury Stoudemire. And that was
Yeah.
he was coming later. And so you've seen the obviously you had Utah still. Every team had a power forward
Hmm.
that was elite. Chris Webber, Sacramento. So you start talking about those West power forwards. That was a tough ask for Robert to have to guard those. And again, they brought in somebody who was tremendously confident and was willing to play that role from a defensive standpoint. So I thought it was a smart move on the Lakers because I wasn't asking for the ball. You didn't have to worry about me crying because I wasn't touching the ball here and there. And so it was a match made in heaven. My only fault was, and this is what any player, anytime you get contracted to a team, you got to ask what they're asking you to do now. And then you got to visualize the evolution of the team. And that's where I failed to do with the Lakers, which is why my extent was only 2 years and not longer. Because there was no doubt about it, especially that first year, I was the player that they needed. The second year, I had an opportunity. That should have been where I stepped up and began to take over and tell Rob, listen, hey, brother, I appreciate you, but now it's my time and I'm ready to take over this role. Because Robert was stepping out, shooting the three. For instance, I was more so inside things of that nature. And I could shoot and extend from the three. But being comfortable in that role, playing alongside Shaq, you gotta understand. Yeah, I did all the dirty work too, but on the offensive side, you need that guy because they were sitting in Shaq's lap. You also need a guy that's willing to be a threat. You're gonna have a guy as dominant as Shaq. And so for me, that summer after winning the championship, it should have been home, shooting threes, things of that nature. To Rasheed Wallace. Shout out to Rasheed Wallace for extending
We
his
didn't even
game,
say
guys
Rasheed
like that.
Wallace. Rasheed.
We didn't even say Rasheed Wallace, right? So um, shout out, for guys like that who've seen the evolution of the NBA and did it that way. Look how long he played in spite of that, right? Um, so that was something again, it's a learning experience on a fight that if I did it, because I had the physicality part down. That was the easy part for me, to guard the bigger, stronger power forwards. Now it's about when you playing alongside great players. See, this is what people don't understand. They think it's always easy because sometimes it's more pressure playing alongside great players. Because now you got to continue to evolve and find out, okay, this year they just might need me to rebound and run the floor and duck in and play hard and make the passes. Now, this year, such and such get moved or such and such. Now I need to evolve my game. And a lot of times we don't think like that. We think this is what I do, this is who I am, and this is the service I'm offering. I would encourage anybody that wants to play a long career, you got to have some flexibility in expanding your game. Yeah, stick with what got you there, but be willing to expand your game. And so that's why I want to say my relationship with Rob was, it wasn't that it was super close. I was constantly trying to learn from players. I'll be honest, I wasn't, because it was such a competitive league, I wasn't in that mind frame of building close relationships because it's a dog eat
Yeah.
dog world. You might have to take over somebody's job, right? And so with that being said, I understood that when I came into Dallas. I replaced Popeye Jones, who was beloved in Dallas. Never met Popeye Jones, but I felt his essence. I felt how they felt that about him. And then
Yeah.
somebody even mentioned it. You know who you taking over when you come in and all this? I'm like, yeah, okay. I only never met Popeye, but I better step up my game. And so uh, shout out to guys like playing alongside AC Green, who played with me in Dallas, who helped me mature and start to see things from a pro perspective. It was my experience playing along guys like that who helped me evolve and being comfortable into the player I evolved in, that role guy. Watching AC come in and the whole arena goes up just for this guy doing these little small things, that helped me embrace a mature mindset of what a role player should be like.
Okay, and shout out AC Green. I actually just recently met him at Byron Scott's Lakers Legends party, man. That was cool. But
I was supposed to be there that day. I was supposed to be there. Unfortunately, I
ah
had to go see my daughter. I was on that panel. It was at three, myself, AC, the young fella. But I had to cancel last minute, man, because I had to go see my daughter um, up at Cal Berkeley.
oh, okay. Well, sorry, I'm gonna catch you in
Yeah,
person one of these days. But all right, so before I
yeah,
want to talk Lakers playoffs because I want to kind of go in depth with that King series. But before we do that, obviously the one thing that went viral is the Kobe punch over the $100, whatever the bet was. I had read that in the Three Ring Circus a long time ago. One part that I
right.
read in there that I haven't really heard you touch on too much and I don't know how true this excerpt was, so you can let me know how accurate Perlman was. He said that
Yep.
Phil Jackson due to the other players on the Lakers like kind of backing you and saying like, yo, you can't just let him hit him like that. They were good. Like Phil Jackson was going to let y'all get off the bus and fight. Is this true?
Fam. So after the commotion happened, I stand up, Phil stand up, he sees the commotion. We at the top of the ramp. We haven't even gone down and where the players get off yet. And so I tell Phil, yo, stop the bus. Oh boy, just, hit me. So stop the bus. Phil look around, they stop the bus at the top, right there. And I look back, Cole, yo, come on off the bus, man. Let's handle this now. So um obviously he didn't want to get off. He made a business decision. And Phil, at that time decided we're not going to waste any more of his, practice time. And so we proceeded on to practice. They wouldn't let me go to practice because obviously I had other intentions at that time, But
Yeah.
nah, man, again, shout out to Cole, man. It's a somebody I highly respect. Obviously I felt he made a bad decision at that time. And as a man, you got to make a decision how you going to handle things. And I had made my decision. And Phil was, Phil was about that life. you
Yes.
know, he,
Sound like
Phil
a
was
black
about that
uncle
life.
almost.
Yeah, facts. And and I think that Phil understood that th- there had to be certain things like this also brought you closer. So Phil knew how to take advantage of a good scuffle or a good altercation or things of that nature because he was a Zen guy. So he knew
Mhm.
how to get that because right after that comes the rebuilding process, right? And so good coaches will allow that to happen sometime and then take advantage of that opportunity to galvanize the troops. And
Yo,
kind
and
of
I
that's
feel
what he
like
did.
I truly believe that it did make you guys closer. Like, I don't like, how do you get through the King series like without having that 12 men meditating towards one goal, just to deal with it? Like, let's start with game 4 because game 3 as a kid was gut wrenching for me. What the Kings did to us in game 3 in that 2002 series, I couldn't believe what I was seeing with my eyes. So then I'm watching game 4 and we're down 20 at the end of the
Yeah.
first quarter. I'm depressed. What is the mood of the Lakers at that time?
Well, it was obviously one of utter shock, considering, we had two of the most dominant forces on there, and we were getting beat pretty candidly, and they were handing it to us, like you said, by 20 by now by the first quarter. And shout out to Mike Bibby, who at that time was just electrifying and what he was able to do. And he was tearing the NBA up and giving us just nightmare matchups, game planning for him, and obviously having the two players around, having a supporting cast around him and Doug Christie, Weber. Divac, Stojakovic. I mean, man for man, they had a bench that could Scott Pollard off the bench. Yeah, Bobby Jackson. I mean, you think about it, man for man, they had some dogs on their team that could go and who understood basketball. They had a very unique team that was, I call a high IQ basketball team. And if you look at
Mhm.
their offense was very fluid and efficient. So it required a lot of movement, and it didn't allow for Shaq to just be able to stay and play midfield at all. They did. And Vladi, who knew how to pass, who knew how to do things, made it hard. No, he couldn't guard Shaq, but their whole idea was to make us move with ball movement, right? And they did an incredible job, doing that and made us uncomfortable. So that's something that we had to adjust to in real time. And then also, you got to imagine winning back-to-back championships. It's hard to win an NBA championship, then go back into win another one. Because that preparation and what you're seeing, like with OKC, how they came out guns blazing and then dropped off. That fatigue hit. So when you see teams win multiple championships, I know this era thinks it's real easy now, in this social media era, we talk about championships like they come like that, or they don't. So that the wear and tear it takes on your body to go late into June, then to kind of take a week off, get right back at it, you know, and then you're going to start out gun blazing again. That next season, start early, like what Shea and them was doing coming out. That you got to hit a wall. And so you got to understand the Lakers at 1-2 have been back-to-back champions already. And there's a little fatigue there. You got Shaq, quite big man at 300 some odd pounds, going playing late into season 2 years in a row. And those things create the adversity, that you need to address. This is why Phil wasn't big on tour days. Shout out to Phil because we may have 1 or 2 days of tour days and they were never really intense. And so he believed in allowing guys to play their way up. This is why the Lakers, we would lose some games that we would drive people crazy. We might lose to Golden State, you know what I'm saying? Then beat the big teams, but then lose to the Wizards, somebody like that. It was just how the season went. Who, when a team understands how to win now, the coach has a tendency to give them a little more leeway, understand that they know how to flip that switch on. It's a dangerous approach, but you kind of got to give it to those guys when they show you that they can indeed do that. And that's what Shaq and Kobe and those guys was able to do. They allowed the system to just carry them, the triangle system to carry them because it was very efficient. When it was time to turn up, they turned up. It just happened to be that we were playing against a very formidable opponent in the Kings. And
Yeah.
it it took an incredible shot and some incredible plays to dig us out of that. That's to say that.
Yeah, and I want to rewind a little bit. Actually, one of the voiceovers I made, I think this is how you started following me, is when I made the voiceover about the halftime shot. Because to me,
Yeah.
that was the shot that nobody really talks about because we were chipping away in the second quarter, but until that thing got close to like single digits, it felt like the team was deflated. So you didn't get the shot off in time. Did you feel that
True
at the
story.
moment? Yeah.
Nah, I didn't actually. I just got the pass from Rob, and first of all, I didn't think they was going. I thought Rob was going to shoot it, and Rob actually passed it, and shit, I'm getting mine off. So, uh, not even
You
thinking
said you
about
could
it,
shoot.
man. I can shoot it now. Actually, the crazy part about it, if you go back and look at the technique and the form, like it wasn't just one of those things where I just thought it. No, I shot it. And I think that happened to me one more time in my career. I think I was with the Spurs. I want to say I'm 2 for 2 from three. And I think both of them happened though in a pressure situation. It wasn't like this to catch. But again, I was in my workouts. I shot the three ball, which is why my stock went up. I decided to become the player I decided to become in a more defensive realm, right? But
Mhm.
it was there. And I wasn't shocked that I made it. That's why when I walked off, if you look at the thing, I walked off like it didn't mean nothing because number one, I was still deflated because of we were getting our ass kicked, excuse my language, we were getting our butt kicked. And then on top of it, you know, I thought the writing was on the wall.
The second half was night and day. Obviously,
Yeah.
it still came down to a shot that it was funny. I feel like Shaq got nervous when he caught the ball. Kobe was ready, but he obviously missed a shot. Shaq caught the offensive rebound. He rushed that thing. He did not want no part of that ball. Robert Horry, like you said,
Foul.
sometimes he might have just been standing out there because he was tired. But look what God do. He put the ball right in the perfect person's hands, and now we end up winning the game. But to take it back just really
Yeah.
quickly, what was the
But shout
halftime
out,
locker
Volley was
room?
scared too. Volley was scared too. That just throw that out there. He didn't want Shaq to get that ball. So he was the one who tipped it out there. Just throw that out there too.
Yeah, yeah, facts. He gave him an assist pretty much. But what was the halftime locker room like in game four, if you remember?
You know what? I just remember being quiet, man. Everybody, we didn't have these big, one for the Gibber hip hop parade or these big, these speeches. Kobe would reside himself into the one of the smaller rooms in the locker room and sometimes isolate himself. Um, that's what he did, and everybody had their own way of preparing themselves, right? They had been through it before, and it was one of those things where you didn't see a lot of pressure. You didn't see the players become flustered. They actually felt like we've been here before. That's what I got out of it. We've been here before. All right, let's go. And that's what you saw. These were guys who believed it. Talking about Kobe and Shaq, two guys who believed they were the best players in the NBA. And so to see them turn it on and to see the team come back the way it did and then go back up in there in the game seven. Look, they had an opportunity to win it there. They choked. They missed some big key free throws down the line that could have
Yeah.
iced the game. So it was competitive all the way, man. Shout out to the Kings because they were deserved to be champions that year. It just happened to be we had Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah, I feel
And
like game
Robert,
seven,
big
you
shot
seen the
Rob.
difference. I feel like game seven, you've seen the difference between a very extremely talented team in the Kings versus a focused Zen team in the Lakers, where it's like, oh, this team that shoots the lights out, they missed 13 free throws in game seven. They got tight. They even had a lead in overtime and still found a
Yes.
way to choke it away. So yeah, I guess last thing I'll ask you about that
Yes.
series, the game six, the everything that came out of game six with the theories and everything, like what is that to you? What does that mean to you? Was there anything like it? There's nothing real about it to me. I'm a Lakers fan, but what was that to you after they said that we cheated the Kings or whatever?
Look, man, nobody could have saw that coming, right? The shot I hit like that it was a momentum builder. No, I believe that you had so many people wanting to see the Lakers lose at that year, right? And the narrative was built around because of the way the shot happened. Like, look, you can't write that shot that Robert Horry hit. Robert Horry missed that shot. It's over,
Hmm.
right? Even my shot at halftime, like that's a story. Like it felt like it was meant to be when you start seeing stuff like that happen. That was just bigger than the refs per se. Were there maybe some calls that were good or bad? I think if you really wanted to cherry pick that, you can look at both ways and find that, right? Because there are times where Shaq is so dominant, and because he's so dominant, they'll give him cheap fouls. Sometimes I see Shaq do this, somebody bumping him and it's foul, but do these refs do that? Do they have to learn how to manage the game on a consistent basis that maybe question when you're coaching elite teams and players like that? That's a that's a very difficult task. Um, by no means do I believe in what like they were cheating in what Donahue, I think was it Donahue that came out, the ref
Donaghy,
that he
Tim
came
Donaghy.
out.
Yep, yep.
Donahue, look, is there corruption in all sports? I'm sure at some point in time there's possibly a little corruption. Uh, but I thought the NBA does an incredible job of weeding that out. Um, I give no credence to that whatsoever. That was a
Awesome.
hard fought series. Who, to your point, they should have won in Game 7.
Yeah,
They
they
did.
panicked. They
You know,
panicked. And we
they
can
panicked.
wrap that series up. What I will say is, I believe two things people don't talk about. The game two, which the Lakers came out like gangbusters in game one. But if Kobe don't get a sick game two, we probably win game two. But I feel like game five, when Mike Bibby hit that game winner coming off the screen, first of all, I seen an offensive foul in the moving screen, and then I seen Bobby Jackson tugging Kobe jersey off. So it was all nip and tuck. You know what I mean?
That's what I said. I said if you really wanted to cherry pick and you go back and look and you really wanted to study the film, there's so many opportunities to call and not call and do things of that nature, man. And so,
Yeah, this
um,
way or that way. But a couple more questions about the Lakers, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. Was the New Jersey series easy?
I don't think I don't want to disrespect New Jersey. I think of all the teams we played, that was probably the least challenging series of all the other series, right? The Kings series, once you beat the Kings, I think the mentality that, and I think Jersey was better. Obviously, now let's get put some respect in their name. What they did in the East that year, they were very dominant. You understand, we had just went through a series where we played against the Kings, coming out on top. You gotta understand what that does for confidence. You're already talking about a two-time champion, but now you're talking about a team who probably just played the championship. That was the championship in a lot of people's eyes, considering the echelon, upper echelon two top teams. So after that, the mindset of Jersey beating us, it didn't make sense to us. And so we had we had a headwind of steam coming in when it came to how we were going to attack Jersey. And then you had, again, going back to what I mentioned when I was in San Antonio, you got to have three guys just to be able to foul Shaq. You see how dominant was in that playoffs. They didn't have enough bigs to be able to contain Shaq, and that's what it boils down to.
Okay. Okay. All right. And this is this is the last from that season. I do want to go over 0203 briefly, but I feel like that's a little bit darker than '02. What was the parade like?
Awesome, man. Seeing the fans come out and all the fans who supported this year get rewarded with that day. It shows you how much that really means to the fans. Being able to show up in the parade and things of that nature, it just shows you how meaningful that does. And this makes what you do when you play during the season that much more meaningful for you because it's appreciated by thousands and thousands of people. And it's good to see the fans get rewarded with, a championship, being able to come out, meet and greet the players. Unfortunately, those dynamics have changed now that you got the business of basketball's grown. It
Yeah.
seems like those players that you got to be part of the rich now to be able to come to an NBA game. So uh,
Yeah,
shout
most
out to the
real
fans.
Lakers fans, and I'm sorry, I don't mean real Lakers fans, but like, Lakers fans from, let's just say,
Yeah,
the inner city or whatever Lakers, they might never step foot in crypto arena, and they got the most love in their heart for the Lakers for sure.
and that's facts. So shout out to those fans who supported, who helped the Lakers become who they are. And like I said, man, it's watching, being the Lakers is not like being anything else. You watching Penny Marshall, Jack Nicholson, watching all these stars, Snoop Dogg, Denzel Washington sitting there, nightly basis, man. It's a true honor and a pleasure. You can, really suit up in the purple and gold, let alone win a championship. But just to play at LA, it's unlike playing anywhere else.
Yep, to the biggest stars in the world, you're the biggest star. But all right, let me ask you
Truth.
this. Kobe and Shaq, obviously great dynamic, great duo. They win three championships, probably left one or two on the table. What was the Kobe and Shaq dynamic to you, and any like not even dust ups, like any blow ups you ever see between the two, or was it always just kind of them being like a quiet like issue?
I think any of the blow up situations came prior to me coming there. I heard stories of them getting into it. I personally never saw it, but I did know that Shaq obviously had an issue with Kobe and vice versa. And I think that with Kobe, it was basketball related. You know, Kobe was a tireless worker, incredible work ethic. Talking about a guy who wasn't always the most gifted in his class. You got guys like Vince, Tracy McGrady, you know, certain players who are more gifted, talented than Kobe. And Kobe had to work for a lot of what he got, right? And so to have that mindset, you got to understand he's always going to see things from a more practical level. Where you got Shaq, who just simply been the most dominant thing since he stepped foot on the court. So two different mentalities. Where Shaq can say, can you imagine being a guy knowing every time you step on the court that you're the most dominant? Not even Kobe can say that. Like physically, I mean, physically, you're the
Hmm.
most dominant thing. And so night in and night out, how do you get yourself prepared for that? See, most of us have experiences. See, most of us, though, that we're good until we go up against somebody that shows us that, okay, there's somebody better or somebody that can whoop your tail. I'm not sure that happened to Shaq, right? Other than Akeem Olajuwon and that situation. So uh, you had two totally different dynamics personality wise. Shaq can take off, several months, turn it on, and be Shaq. That wasn't Kobe's approach. So I think you had fundamental, a dynamic that was obviously fundamentally opposing as it pertains to those two, but they made it work. And a lot of people talk about the friction, but give them credit for having such dynamic or multiple or different personalities. The word I'm looking for, different personalities, but being able to put it together. And a lot's not said about that. And that's where Phil Jackson comes in. That's the importance of
Boom.
the Zen comes into place, being able to tie all that together.
Yeah, perfect coach for the perfect whether you call it egos,
Duo.
personality, mindset,
Yeah.
whatever, the perfect coach. Now, actually I got a funny question because I'm reading Phil Jackson's 11 Rings right now. He had a story in there where he said after one of the 2003 playoff games, Shaq got mad at Devin George and was attacking Devin George, and apparently Brian Shaw called him out, and Shaq attacked Brian Shaw after it.
Right. Like, look, uh, shout out to B. Shaw. B. Shaw was the OG. Like he was the one who gave you a picture of how everything worked. When I came there, B. Shaw was the one who kind of told me what Kobe might have been going through. Shaq, obviously playing with Shaq in Orlando, he understood all this, right? Understood Phil, and he was able to kind of paint a picture of everything that was going on in real time, and that really helped me. Um, but he wasn't the confrontational kind of guy, and he used his words sparingly when he came out and wanted to speak, and the people respected B. Shaw though when he talked. Same way with D. Fish. Wasn't a confrontational guy, but when he spoke, people listened. Same with Rick. And I think that's what made us work. You didn't have a lot of guys in here going back and forth, all that, right? No, even Kobe and Shaq. But when it came time to really get things hammered home, the D Fishes of the world, the Rick Fox, the B Shaws, they would use their voices and things of that nature to speak out and say things. And so um, you got to understand those two had a relationship prior to coming to LA. So they could challenge each
Orlando.
other. Shaq, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, before coming to LA. Yeah, in Orlando before coming to LA. So you can understand that those relationships were built prior, and those two can challenge each other like that. And though it may come out, to the media as something that strange, I mean, players, this is family. This is how we motivate each other. So those things have to happen. And again, you always got Phil in the background looking for something that he could nurture and take advantage of, and he often did, in Zen fashion.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read any of the Phil Jackson books, but you absolutely should for sure. All right, I'm gonna leave the Lakers alone for the most part. I just want to quickly, briefly touch 2002, 2003. I feel like it's marked by that amazing comeback versus the Dallas Mavericks. but I feel like you guys were the comeback kids that year, man. I remember one against Memphis. You guys came back from like 25. Kobe hit a
Yeah.
game winner, but it led to game five versus the San Antonio Spurs, which I really thought we was going for a Pete. We're down 25 points, I believe, going into the fourth quarter. I just want to know, first of all, what's going through your head as that Robert Horry shot is going through the air that ends up rimming out? And what is obviously we end up getting beat down in game six, but what's the locker room mood after game five when Robert Horry misses that?
Well, obviously, we had the tremendous belief in Robert's going to knock down on shots because that's what we were used to seeing, right? And so you believe it until you see otherwise. So that we knew it was going to be a challenging year with the Spurs. Uh, they were a much better team that year. We seen them coming. Again, there were some politics and some other things that were going on that year that I think that played a huge part of that. You can understand. Prior to that, before I was sharing a lot of that power forward role with Robert, and because of his aging legs, we didn't put that much pressure on him to guard those, especially the Tim Duncans, the Chris Webbers, for long periods of time. Well, that year, you know, 02, 03, 03, 04 now, yeah, it was it 03, 04, yeah,
Oh,
02,
203, oh,
03,
203.
02, 03. Um, Robert was again, he was becoming a free agent. And I think the Lakers wanted to either move on or make sure that they were able to keep his value in a certain place. Because Robert, no, he wasn't doing all these big things, but because he was big shot Rob, because he was Q, he was always being talked about. His value was high. He had tremendous impact on the team. So you knew he was going to ask for the bread. And I think this is where the business aspect came into play because I saw my time beginning to decrease, especially in that particular series, which was a little bit of, I was a little bit bewildered because of my local knowledge against Tim Duncan and being able to fact that given the fact that I played him tough the year before in that series, I thought this was a series where I would be highlighting or stepping up in that role, especially more from a defensive. But they made Tim guard him a lot, which I didn't think was the right thing to do at that stage. Nobody could guard Tim Duncan, but you're asking a Robert Horry to play those extended minutes, both defensively and offensively, just wasn't a good recipe. You know, it was saving Robert for the playoffs and saving Robert's legs, helping him so he can be Robert Horry. And so that was a tough experience. And obviously, long story short, obviously Robert ended up moving on, going to San Antonio and doing the same thing there, right? Uh,
Yep.
but but no, that was it, man. It was a frustrating year because you know going back to Kobe and Shaq, Shaq had gained some weight that year. You know the pig toe, the abdominal injuries. You know when you go and you talk about your fourth championship, you know the mental focus ain't always there. Uh, the drive that you had in your first two championships, when you win your first one, then you want to prove that that first one wasn't a fluke. All those things matter.
Yeah. Okay. And the night it all ended. And I was a young kid, so forgive me, but yeah, I shed tears, man, when the Lakers lost 110 to 82 to the Spurs in game six. I remember what the score was at halftime. It was 54 to 50. But that's how much I was into it. You being there, what was that night like, the night that it all ended? Obviously Kobe in tears, Derek Fisher in tears. It was all bad. Like, what was the mood in the locker room and just the mood around the team in the immediate aftermath?
It was one of those things where, you know, number one, it was shocking because you got a team that was used to losing. I mean, sorry, you had a team that was used to winning and not losing. So the first things first is that they had to accept the reality, you know, which was the Spurs, they dominated us. Not only did they win, they dominated us. So you consider another team with Kobe and Shaq, D Fish, Robert Ory, uh, Rick Fox, all these guys are competitors. So you knew that, you know, from that standpoint, it bothered them. But they were understanding that, these type of things happen and that every place has a shelf life. And at some point in time, you got to start over. And I think this is where we was as a franchise, and this is where the players understood that uh, maybe it was time for, a new start.
What were you going through personally, or what were you thinking personally?
Oh man, uh, it was a tough pill to swallow because at the time I thought that I should have played more in a defensive role, and I thought that they kind of left Robert out to dry a little bit in that role, and I thought that that ultimately kind of sealed their fate.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. All right,
Yeah,
and
that was it
like I
was
said,
tough.
man, it was fun, like watching you on the Lakers. Obviously, the power forward position for us during that time was ever changing for the most part. Like, but yeah, going from Horace Grant to you, it was almost like seamless. So I will say you definitely plugged into a spot that was perfect for you at the time. I do wish in 2002, 2003, we could have won again because I felt like we had a chance. Like, but Tim Duncan to me was all world. Like 2003,
Oh
Tim
man,
Duncan, and maybe yeah, he was
yeah,
it's
yeah,
something else, and I'm sure he was mad because what did he lose to the Lakers in 2000 and 2001, or 2002 and
yeah.
2001? So probably had a chip on his shoulder. But all right. So life after the Lakers, as far as the NBA goes, like what was the rest of your career like for you? Like, because the last game you started was with the Lakers, right?
Right. Last game I started was with the Lakers. Right after that, again, um, I that summer I ended up flipping my car 5 times. That was a tough summer after that. After that loss with the Spurs, again made a bonehead decision of people pleasing. I call it people pleasing. I was going back home at one time and I had some people wanting me to come. I had just landed. I had been on a vacation from actually the NBA and going back home. It was a late flight. I remember getting in and I had some friends, family. Hey, you should come out and hang out at this midnight bowling spot. And thought to myself, I'm probably should just go home and rest. But again, I decided I was going to make a decision to go out, meet up with some people, fell asleep at the wheel. The rest was history. I flipped my car 5 times, woke up in the hospital, and that was a new beginning. I was very fortunate again. The universe uh, was on my side. The universe again gave me another opportunity to play basketball. Not only to be alive, forget playing basketball, but the fact that I was able to come out of that particular vehicle the way it looked was just simply amazing. So Miami Heat bring me in. Pat Riley was I can't say enough about Pat Riley and what he was able to do in helping me get to that next phase of my life. Not just from a basketball standpoint, but from a man standpoint. They brought me in, looked at my wrist. I still had a cast on my arm when the Miami Heat brought me in. And they were looking at the particular tendon and making sure that it healed right because this certain tendon on the wrist had a tendency to heal awkward. They looked at, saw what they saw. The rest was history. They signed me on the spot. But at that time, I go to Miami and I miss all the training camp. And when I do finally get an opportunity to play and start moving again, my body didn't feel the same. My hips was a little off and things. So I go to Pat Riley and tell him, listen, man, my body's not the same. I think I'm gonna need to retire. He was shocked. He was like, what? I said, yeah, I think I'm about to take some time off. And I was kind of I felt really bad because I respected Pat Riley and what he did. He didn't have to bring me in. And for him to bring me in, he highly respected what I did and the brand of basketball that I brought to the table. So what he said, you stay here, got me the best doctors in Miami. They helped me rehab. Come to find out, they found a bone spur in my ankle. The doctor took a picture of it and said it's the largest bone spur he ever removed from an ankle. He said, I don't understand how you continue to play on it. So I missed most of the season rehabbing, came, played some games, nothing really meaningful. So it was a cool little stop, a stop that allowed me to kind of reinvent myself and what I wanted to do. As a player now, at the time, I'm kind of tough pill to swallow that my body wasn't going to be the same. Wasn't going to be ever again like, 2002. So tried to go back with the Wizards. The role had changed. They wanted me more, obviously, as a veteran role. They wanted me to kind of mentor the younger guys. And that, you got to understand, I was coming from Miami structure, San Antonio structure, Lakers structure. So when I got to the Wizard, it was a very humbling experience. It was the first team I'd been on where everything wasn't on the up and up.
This
We had
Gilbert
some very
Arenas Warriors, or not Warriors,
those
Wizards.
yeah, those it was some very immature years there. And so Ernie Grunfeld, wanted me to come in, basically be the damn spy. And so I said, you know what, cool. Let me go ahead and play this role. And so I got to report to him now what's going on in the locker room. And I hated that role because I'm like, it was just so dysfunctional. Every day it was something going on that was just dysfunctional that when you come from a team that you understand all the little things that it takes to win. Now you're on a team and you can clearly see that these things are misaligned with the true goal of winning, and you can see it and you know the results before it all comes together. That's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow when you know that these habits of players that you're playing with is going to lead you home early. And
Wait, any
yeah,
Gilbert Arenas stories? If you got any.
this I was just nah, man, it was one of those things where I love Gil. And I love Gil. I think Gil was one of the most talented players to pick up a basketball
By
and to watch
far.
him develop. Yeah, to watch him develop, come out of Golden State and develop and find identity and turn into Agent Zero. One of the biggest NBA stories ever. But obviously there were leadership, issues and things that there. And there's also a testament to why he never played at, in the championships and the finals and things of that nature. So as good as we talk about talent and things like that, we also got to ask, well, why didn't you lead teams to the promised
Yeah,
land?
and Gil was a shooting star. If you really look back, he didn't really play that long. Truthfully, obviously, some of it he got hampered by injuries. But once the league kind of you get a stain on you, they kind of shine you. But as
Right,
far as a specific
right.
basketball player, yeah, he's second to
He can
none. I'll
go.
say.
He can go. Yeah, he can go. 8-0. But look, man, I always say, look, and I'm just being, and it's again, it's not a slight, but it's easier to be a great player on teams where you're the guy. There's no real rules. You can take shots when you want to and everything. You get to showcase all of that. What a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes it's harder to play under structure because sometimes it's about what you have to give up, being able to pass, move, play off of the ball. Can you catch and shoot? This is why Dwayne Wade is one of my favorite players. I've never saw a superstar at the level he was when he handed the team to LeBron James and said, I'm going to be the role player. Well, we all know role players got to do some dirty work. They got to run. They got to cut off the ball. You got to cut when you don't get the ball. Imagine Dwayne Wade being off the ball cutting and don't get the mother, right?
Yeah,
That's a mindset. And so for me, when I give players their flowers, it's not just, okay, you were on a team and they gave you the ball to allow you, because I've been on that situation. Even when I got to Dallas and Don Nelson started putting the ball in the hand on my bad team, I was putting up some crazy numbers. I was balling. You couldn't tell me nothing. You couldn't tell me I wasn't the next thing. Like those top power forwards who already solidified themselves. Barkley, I gave 26 and 14. He came to me after the game, young fella. It's your turn now. I'm like, oh, I'm ready. So I say that not to be disrespectful, but when you getting the ball up the court every time on a bad team, that can be easier from an individual standpoint than having to play with structured other players when you get the ball, knowing that you're not going to get the ball 10 times up the court. You may get the ball two. So now efficiency comes into play. Can you be
yeah,
efficient? What about when you get the ball, you miss your first shot? What's your mindset going to be? So when you start talking about, for me, I'm old school, elite of elite, there's not many elite players. Now, the NBA has made superstars and is great at producing them based off what their needs are. But when you start talking about elite of elite guys, there ain't many of those, because what D Wade did at that time, not only did he elevate LeBron and teach LeBron, but he took his ego and said, you know what? I'm going to keep my ego, compartmentalize that. I'm going to play these roles. I'm going to do whatever the Miami Heat. To win like that, and to be at one time to win as the main guy, that's impressive to me.
Yeah,
You
and
have showed
I'll add
me
on to
you
that.
are,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say I'll add on to that. He did that. He took this back seat, and he still almost got his numbers. He still get his
Eh,
same numbers with because he elevates his efficiency, which makes me think of like Doug Collins, Michael Jordan versus Phil Jackson, Tex Winters, Michael Jordan.
Yes, 1000%. That was the difference between Mike winning and losing, was the system. And again, it's sometimes harder to play in the system because now you gotta know how to play off ball, when to let others get involved. Like Mike could have ran the numbers up even more if he would have did it the Doug Collins way. Not guaranteed that he would have won anything. He'd have been a highlight reel for his career, but winning, that triangle had perfect 15-foot spacing, and there was no call playing in the triangle. The ball and the pass dictated the action. So now it kept the defenses off. You didn't have to come out and call a play. Ball go here, you know it might go to that pinch post catch. You do a reverse pivot. You got everybody cut. There's a lot of movement. And so, and this is where I say like a guy like, Braun, maybe he was under more structure. He could have won more. The NBA fell
Agreed.
in love with individual talent. That's the NBA, because with the NBA, what they understood with Michael Jordan was that before it was a team oriented game. What Michael Jordan did was showed the NBA that one guy could fill out arenas. One guy,
Mhm.
the guy that's sticking his tongue out, the ball head guy sticking his tongue out, win or lose, these people were coming to see this guy. The NBA started searching for superstar. That's why he says it's a superstar driven game. And when they didn't
Yep.
have it, sometimes you had to manufacture those stars. See, that's what a lot of people don't want to talk about. Some of your favorite players is manufactured too. That's why there's levels between the real elite, like a D Wade who's shown you the adversity, the mindset. I can play this role. I can play that role. So for me, can you play multiple roles and can you still impact the game? Or do you just got to have the ball in this one way? This is why you see guys like John Morant struggling right now. Shot elite, the best talents that come in the NBA, but can only play one way. Like, bro, get off of the ball. Can you catch and shoot in the three? Can you do the other thing? Let's see you cut. This is why I give
Yeah.
shots out to LeBron James as an aging player. Even as an aging player, he expanded his game to three. Because my whole thing with LeBron is he's been ball dominant his whole career. Can you play off of the ball? What about I seen Mike and all those other guys do it? Can you play off the ball and elevate other guys? Not you making the pass. Yeah, that's being ball dominant. Can you get off of the ball and impact? Can you let others play the game, become confident in their role to help you get to yours? See, that's a
Yeah.
strategy. And that takes a lot of mindset, bro, that nobody wants to talk about. It's easy to just crunch talk numbers. His numbers is better than his numbers. Let's talk numbers. See, that's what the analytical people want to do. People like
Yeah.
myself, we rely on analytics too, but we also rely on the eye test, the mindset, what we see in practice, after practice, all these things helps us determine, is this guy real or is he a front runner?
Yeah, because they all skills. I mean, skill wise, talent wise, everybody's all around the same. It's the mentality, discipline, consistency that's going to set maybe the great step. So I seen you won a championship over in the Syrian league, right?
Yeah,
And how was it playing over there?
man, I loved it. This is what I'm working on. This is the phase of my life where I tell people that Basketball is a platform. My dad introduced basketball to me, and again, when he reached out, he said, "This will take you around the world." And my dad had both been in prison and had been in the military. He didn't want me in either one. And so for basketball, the whole take you around the world for me thing is why I'm a success. That's why I see my career as success. Not winning the NBA championship with Shaq and Kobe. I mean, a lot of people would say that in their eyes, but when it comes to my family and what made me successful, me connecting with my dad's vision for his young son who didn't have the money to be able to put him into a college and things, we had this one shot. And that was the platform of basketball. And that's how I teach basketball. I don't care if you're a great basketball player. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, we're humans first. We live in a real world, and sports revolves around that. Sometimes we have a tendency to forget, put the athletic aspect of things first. That's not how I was raised or how I go about my life. So I'm so proud of the Syrian League. Yeah, I won. Not the fact that I won, but the fact that I was there. When I got a chance to see in Syria, by the way, I was in Iran. I've been in Lebanon. I've been in Russia. These are all countries right now from a political stance we're at war with. It's how ironic. What's so important for me and why I'm so proud of my journey. I, Samaki Walker, have seen with my own eyes the love and the respect that in all of these places they have for Americans. In Russia, China, in Syria, I had some of my best times, best conversations, best talks. Um, when I came with my American ideologies and things of that nature, I had to learn how to challenge some of them and let some of the things that I've been taught um, through our ideologies, I had to challenge them in real time. And I'm proud of myself for that because I got a chance to become the man I am based off my experiences and using the platform of basketball to create a situation where I was able to talk to people about their life, their culture, their history. I still talk to people from Syria, right now. We're talking about people who can't even go back to their home. We take this stuff for granted. I got guys who I play with who still can't go back home. We got to go live in Europe. Some couple guys came here to the States. So that experience for me trumps anything I've done in the NBA. And it means so much to me, being able to travel the world, South Korea. See, this platform stuff is huge. And again, that's the word that my dad threw out there. And so I don't even let just my kids get so caught up into their title. This is great. I love it. Dad loves it. But there's a bigger world. Right now, there's a war going on. And if I didn't have my experience, my own experience with my own eyes, I would have to be relying on just Western media for perspective and things of that nature. But I know there's a much bigger perspective in that. I have my own experience with these people to dispel any negative things that the elites may be trying to use to divide and conquer. So this is the phase I'm at in my life, and I'm doing some writing on my experiences abroad right now because I feel like the universe, God has prepared me for this. The NBA was just a microcosm of what I'm doing, was a stop. I love the NBA, it's great. But what I'm doing now in real time as we go to bomb Iran, I have pictures of me in Isfahan, Iran, one of the places that they're bombing currently, you know, taking pictures with people smiling, the energy. And one of the things that the group that I talk to, when you go back home to America, please tell Americans, we love them. We love Americans. We don't love the politics, but we love Americans. And that meant the world to me. And I told myself, if moving forward for the rest of my life, this is what I want to do. I want to make sure that these messages get home. This is important that I hammer my kids so that they need to understand that the world don't hate us. And this is your responsibility as an individual, not just to regurgitate what America's, you know, plans are, whether it's domestic and global, but to see the world in your own eyes and be able to challenge Big Brother America when everything don't align with what she say she is doing. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of where I am. I'm proud of my travel experience to allow me to see the world in totality. So now I can make my own humble political decisions based off real information and not off some old one for the Gipper. Oh, we all proud of America, everything without looking for things of reality. So
Spreading fear.
spirit and fear, divide, and if we ever want to get to grow as a global, as a not only as a society, but across the world, we got to dispel the fears. We got to get over the divisions. We got to stop letting people tell us who our enemies are. And I'm at a level and place in my life where I got the time and the freedom to do that. And I'm reading and researching and doing those things right now. And I look forward to for the rest of my life just dispelling and lies and things that keep us, from divided. I'll probably, die doing that, and in my own way, whether it's using the platform of basketball. I work with several kids right now who are from all different backgrounds, religions, and things of that nature. And so the universe has rewarded me, giving me a platform as such. And yes, basketball is the platform, but the goal is to be able to teach these kids life skills and things that by the time they get 15, 16, 17, that they'll have an understanding of the world as such, and it won't be manipulated or controlled just by what the media says. They'll have their own experience because I dealt with this culture, understand this person, I have this conversation with this individual. I know what the media is saying, but my personal experience is this. So how do I compare these two to have a really grounded perspective on how the real works, man? So that's where I'm at.
That's
That's what I
profound. I ain't gonna lie. I
yeah,
love that answer. I feel like that went a lot like out of the question. And I was gonna ask you about social justice, man. So that was an amazing answer. Let me just
appreciate it.
ask you this briefly, and you can just let me know yes or no. We can talk
Yeah.
about it off camera. Have you ever heard of W.E.B. Du Bois, the Talented 10?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's what you just
Yes, I
made me
have.
think about a little bit when you were talking about that. I'm named after Malcolm X. I mean, I read a lot. I've always been feel like I had some sort of like sports is my thing, but social justice and all that, like mankind, human, what do they call it? Like, what's the law? The greatest law over the over American. Why can't I think of the name of what's the law of the land we live by? That they say we're supposed to live by the Constitution, over the Constitution, over all that. Like it's humanitarian laws. Like that's what's important. That's how we move forward. But yeah, we can talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely.
But
It's one
you just put the
race. It's only the
talented
human
tenth in my
race,
head.
man.
I
Yeah,
think you
man. It's
might be a
one
part
race.
of
It's
that.
human race. Hey, brother.
Okay.
We come from the same cloth. Look, man. I was raised by Pan African family. Those who don't understand Pan African, it's the
Mm.
uniting of Africa, right? And several leaders been assassinated and killed. I don't want to go into that, but um, there's been several policies that have caused the execution of these kind of people who want to see, you know, a united Africa. And that's how I got my name, Samaki Ijumazawani. And that's who I was before I became a basketball player and always will be. And that's who I'm going to die. And so I I'm all for pro-blackness and unapologetically. What I mean by that, not a pro-blackness where black people have to rule and things, but a pro-blackness in discovery and understanding of what we have brought to human civilization, what our cultures brought, how we got here today, not allowing people to whitewash our history. And
Yeah, black people are the
that's
soul of America. To me, the soul, like literally. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, literally. And not only that, in a lot of other places, our culture has helped develop the world. And if you go back to history, you talk about indigenous people before there were, you know, people of all races, you understand there were indigenous people of all the other races had dark skin. You can go back to China and look at the indigenous people there. dark people with slanted eyes. You'd be like, oh, could never fathom that this is possible. But there's a lot of reasons that this information is not put out there. And again, it's important for self-identity so that
Hmm.
your kids won't have low self-esteem. When you teach your kids, you got to tell them about our accomplishments and things that we've done. Not because we want to go to war with every other race. No, there's only one race. It's the human race. See, they got you thinking that race is ethnicity and skin. No, there's one race, and it's the human race. And guess what?
Yep.
At some point in time, we're all going to have to leave this earth. So you could be stuck on this BS train where they're constantly giving you distractions, or you can see what's going on and that technology is evolving. At some point in time, the human species is going to start implementing biology stuff that's going to allow them to excel in outer space. Because if you think we ain't going, that's where we're going. If you think
Yep.
that the Earth at some point in time is not going to change, then you're living in a dream world. And I've always been curious about space and outer space, astronomy, astrology, art, the astrophysicists. And so I believe that at some point in time, humans are going to begin to put things in their body that's going to allow them to be superhuman. That's going to create a different race of people. When people start leaving outside of the world, going to visit other planets, this is what we need to be racing to. Do you want
Yep.
your family to be left behind? Because when that new race of people go out there with these new powers and these new abilities, guess what? That could be a new form of racism, how you look at it and things of that nature. And so I'm just a really forward thinking guy. And I'm trying to do the best for my family based off of my information. That's what I want. I realize I can't
Yeah.
change the world. I'm not trying to change the world. I can't even change black people. That's just the reality. I can change my reality. And if you
Yep.
do that and allow people to witness that, then hopefully you can motivate somebody else to do the same.
Yep, yep, yep. Well, okay. No, man, and it's crazy. Like going back, I even tell my daughter because she's a big fan of like NBA, WNBA stuff, just like me. But I be telling her like the best player in the world is probably not LeBron James or Michael Jordan. It's probably somebody who's sitting in a prison somewhere, and they're sitting in a prison somewhere. The same person who's paid LeBron James and Michael Jordan, they put the gun in their hand. So you got to realize it's kind of tricky out here. But either
That's
way, I
facts.
mean, yeah, I don't want to go too hard on that, but
Yeah.
all right, retirement. Did you have
Yeah.
any depression after retirement? Like when you're done, when you're no longer hooping at all? Like what was that like for you?
Not at all, brother. I was already, in fact, I haven't even played ball in about 7 years, and again, basketball for me was just a platform. And to piggyback off of that, I didn't even play basketball my senior year. See, a lot of people don't even know that. I sit out because I made a political stand, with my coach was trying to do something behind my back, and it was important for me to take power. And so, and to understand that, make them understand that, no, I'm a human. More than a basketball player, you can't use basketball to control what I'm doing. And so, shout out to Magic Johnson because I gave up my Mr. Basketball. I was Mr. Basketball, my state. I was going to be, I was selected to be on the McDonald's All American team. I had to give that up because I didn't play my senior year. Well, shout out to Magic because Magic Johnson called me again. This is before the Magic call with the Lakers. This is when I'm still in high school. So I got a cold, connection with my Magic stories and stuff like that. I got a call from them and it wasn't Magic, it was their team saying, hey, the Round Ball Classic will have you. We know that the high school All American game, ain't gonna have you, but Round Ball Classic. So I went out there, did my thing, dropped 26. I think me and Felipe Lopez at that time he ended up getting player of the game, but I think it was the same players from the high school All American game. I went out there and made my stand, while I belong with those players. And so again, I've always been a confident kid. I've always been willing to let go of the things and sacrifice for the things that matter the most to me. That's been my life. And so basketball has never been the most important thing. And I teach my kids that the same thing. Look, this is something that you're going to do. There's going to be a lot of people that think they know you, think they like you. They don't. They know you as a basketball player. That's falsito love. Either you can choose to accept that, or you can choose to keep that in perspective. I love my fans, but they don't really know Samaki Walker. They don't know
Mhm.
all those things. They know what made me who I am as a basketball player. So I keep them in their place. I'm supposed to. So I don't need no fans telling me, anything about like real life and all that, because when you get players who lack self-esteem and real identity, they put all that together. This is where you get all
Yeah.
the frustration, all the mental illnesses, and all the mental health. Don't separate yourself. This is
Mhm.
basketball. This is who you are. Who are you outside of basketball? Because if you ain't did nothing outside of that, or if you're nobody and all you're doing is relying on your identity as a basketball player, hell, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And basically, you don't deserve to be mentally healthy because you haven't given that side of yourself, which is the true you, the true validation. What you're saying is you're being lazy. You rather get all this falsito love from people who really don't know you, but it makes you feel good when you should be doing the work of building the real you. And the real you, a lot of people might not like that or like it the same
Yeah.
because it's not entertaining, right? So you're going to have a real choice from a humanistic standpoint of if you really love yourself, who do you want to be? And what boundaries are you going to set for yourself? Are you just going to let people just erode those boundaries or overstep those boundaries whenever they want? If not, then you're going to have a life where you're going to constantly see yourself looking over your shoulder and looking for validation from people who really simply don't know you.
Don't know or care about you. Let them like
Don't
just to
go
be flat
or
out
care.
frank. Like yeah, like but it's
Facts.
and that's where you got to put the time in to go learn who you are. And this is like I said, I could tell you're well read. You ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese or heard of it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who much ever that?
That's that,
Absolutely.
some people run into that cheese and they get to looking at it, enjoying it, reveling in it. Yada, yada. You got to get out there and keep going. And a lot of that comes to figuring out who you really are, or even what you're trying to accomplish, whatever the case may be. But other than that, it's gonna be that simple: live by the applause, die by the booze. But all
Man.
right, man. Last question for you, and I appreciate that because you got real profound on me. So, who was some of your favorite matchups during your time playing?
Good question. So I'll start with my toughest. The toughest matchup for me was Rasheed Wallace because he was I thought he had a little Tim Duncan. He was athletic enough. He was if Rasheed wanted to be, he could have been the best power forward if he really wanted to be, because he had all the things that I thought that were there. And Rasheed had enough physicality because he wasn't a banger where he would do catch on the block and he would get low and like wiggle his way down. And that was tough because I was used to Tim was more methodical. I knew if I could cut Tim off, he was going to his counter. And it wasn't about blocking it. It was just about bothering the shot and things of that nature. He was real methodical. He was going to his counters. Rasheed would get it. And then sometimes would just like Dirk, turn over right over the top, raise way at the top, arms long, shoot right over the top, what nothing you can do. And that's demoralizing because he wasn't trying to get closer to the basket. It was just, I got my position. I'm strong enough to hold you off and I'm going to get it. Now I turn and get the ball up here. Ain't nothing you can do. In addition to his other scoring stuff, right? Mid jump, all that. That used to demoralize me because Phil didn't believe in no help. So I didn't have a problem with nobody in the league. Especially the bangy guy. You want to bang? That's my thing. I like to stand you up. But when it came to like Dirk, Rasheed, guys like that, by the way, I'm one of the guys that helped Dirk establish that high post game out there based off of what we had to do in practice. When Dirk used to come, Dirk was a rookie. He wasn't yet strong enough. And so they would have me come in after
Yeah.
practice and play one-on-one. And the talent was there. Kid was phenomenal. You can tell the skill away from the basket, handle the ball, fluidity, movement. Never moved like a 7-footer. You saw all that, but the NBA was still physical. So at that time, you was kind of wondering how this guy gonna fit in and what we doing. And so shout out to Don Nelson, who again was a visionary. I would push him all the way out to the free throw line. Like he couldn't post low on me. So they had to develop something that was gonna allow him to be free. Got to that free throw line elbow. Dirk catch it there, face up. You got to take him. Shot. Kill him.
Gone.
And bottom at 7 feet, what nothing they can do. And that's where the evolution of Dirk started from there. And then as he got stronger throughout the years, he started being able to post in the low post now. And that's when the one-legged Dirk took off. That's when all the other Dirk stuff came out. By then, it was a wrap. The monster was out the bag, and the rest is history.
Oh man, no. So Rasheed Wallace and Dirk, no, that's two killers. I want the kids. I know they all know Dirk. Go back and watch some Rasheed Wallace. Trust me. But all right, so
Facts.
just quickly, since we kind of got into the social stuff a little bit, who is your Mount Rushmore of great life leaders
Ooh, wait. That's a great question, brother.
or speakers,
Man,
however you want to do it?
you know what, man? I got to go with Malcolm X. Number one is hard to say. I won't say number one, but I just go. You got Malcolm, you got W. Du Bois. Um, I would say mm, this is tough. um, I would put King on there, um, but that's a whole nother conversation. There's some real logical reasons why, if you study the history of King, why they give us the Martin Luther King holiday and not a Malcolm X holiday and some others. So I'll leave that there. Um, I think Martin Luther King was changing his stance. A lot of people knew that right before he was assassinated. I would have people study that as well. But based off his impact, I will put, even though I don't always agree with the way his policies were going at the time, I will agree with the overall impact on where it's gotten us. So he's on my Mount Rushmore for that. When you talk black leaders, who, I mean, are we're talking American black leaders though, right?
It can be
Because you
anybody. It
got
could be anybody. I like Baldwin.
uh,
You ever listen to Baldwin?
Baldwin is great. Baldwin is great. When you talk, I mean, there's so many, man, that are able to influence in their own way. Baldwin was
Yeah.
able to, man, and he was poetry in motion doing it. Um,
Was it Harvard when he spoke in front of that Harvard and talk about like America destruction and like how America is going to destruct itself? That to me is one of the most profound speeches ever.
and but I will admit, I got guys like that people may be familiar with, like John Henry Clark.
No, I don't think I was
John
raised.
John Henry Clark is a historian who probably is one of the deepest black historians,
Okay.
historians that you've ever seen. More than any white historian, more than any other black historian. And a lot of people have used his footage, his debates and everything to kind of create their own debates and things. And I would encourage you to look up John Henrik Clark. Um, he's not the big name that everybody else has, but
Hmm.
when you talk about his understanding of Black history before the makeup of Africa, before it was Africa, all the different evolutions, the kingdoms that happened before, somebody that was profoundly understood these names, the introduction of the Bible as it pertains to Christianity, the evolution of Christianity, what was before. This guy's insight gives you an idea of what the world was like before the invention or evolution of the white race, and other races too. He's able to go back and, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's yeah, he's able to go back and explain all of those things from a responsible standpoint. And he's actually got video of him debating everyone from the Israel priests, top priests, to They tried to use everybody to question these guys and debate him. And the way he goes about strategically breaking them down with facts is probably one of the most amazing things I've seen. Now, I've seen people do talks and great speeches, but I'm talking about real time. Let's get all the white scholars up here, bring all your information, and let's go. He has strategically destroyed a lot of these myths and things and the whitewashing of Black history. He's one of the most profound at exposing all of that. And one of the things people I've learned from just by having to research him, got a lot of
Okay.
my truth. Yeah,
I'm not
check it
familiar.
out.
I'm be honest. I'm about to get familiar. Other than editing this video today, especially if he's on YouTube, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. But man, I
John Henrik
appreciate that.
Clark.
And
Yeah,
I appreciate just exchanging with, not even just people who are like hungry for the information. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of us, we don't even know ourselves, never going to get the chance to know ourselves. But even just in the pursuit, there's something beautiful in that. You know what I mean? But all right. Now this question is really just selfishly because you
yep.
obviously have Jabari who made it to the pinnacle. You got Sakima who's doing her thing. What is fatherhood like? What was fatherhood like for you with kids who are chasing greatness?
Man, you know what? It's like it comes with its adversity, its highs and lows. First of all, shout out to my dad for giving me the blueprint, you know. So that's where it starts. It start with me. The what my dad's vision was of raising a man, a worldly man who was functional member of society. I got video of my dad talking about that being interviewed of what his goals was for his son. Basketball was the platform. I'm raising my son to be a productive member of society. And so with them, obviously they're part of a different generation, coming up right now where sports is more prevalent in their life. I spend my time just keeping them, try to be grounded and giving them real information. They've done a good job of accepting it. It's not always been easy because it's hard being dad, sometimes coach or trainer, because you have to be really honest sometimes with their kids who are developing, their young mind is developing, and they're not able to internalize everything always responsibly. So sometimes the criticism can come across as, oh man, dad thinks bad or negatively of me, right? And you got to be careful of that because it's a real shaky line. Sometimes as a parent, sometimes your kids just get to the point they don't give a damn what you say. If you wear your voice out as trainer and coach at home, they're going to turn you off sometime, right? So it's one of those things where you got to be responsible. You got to grow as a parent in real time too. You can't be just about you and your experiences because the truth is their experiences are a little different from yours. You can give them what you learned, but they're also being raised up in a new world. So it's like with my son Jabari, he was going through it. Well, he went through some adversity, finding his identity, and we had butt heads, even in the NBA. Like when he got to Portland, one of the things I told him, look, one of the most important things you're going to do is find your identity. And he's this information since high school. This is how hard it is to be successful. Just because you got a dad or mom that play professional ball don't mean you're guaranteed to make it. You still got to go out there and do it on your own. You still got to go out there and compete and find your identity. And for Jabari, it was tough because he got to Portland and he kind of took his foot off the gas pedal. Made it. That's when I told him, now ain't the time to do that. And there was a disconnect. And he's very fortunate that, the general manager from Portland and these guys, they respect his dad. I got a phone call just giving you some information on how these dynamics work sometimes. Hey, man, or, he's showing up late here and things of that nature. He got some workouts. They wanted to change his body. And they wanted him to come in early. And I'm sure he didn't like it because when he realizes that they wanted him to come in early. You're not coming in with every team. We see your body. We want to get some body fat off of you. We need you to come in, right? And so with him and this new generation, that's a hard pill to swallow. You got this 2K era, right? They doing general manager stuff on 2K. They think it worked like that. Seriously, you got these kids think it worked like 2K. You come in there, pop your feet up, you talking with the GM and everything, and the deal get done. Not realize it don't work like that. And so there comes a time where it's hard because as much as your voice used to motivate them, there comes to a point where it don't work like that no more. That's just the reality. You got to be okay with that and let nature take its course. Beg for him to change his habits. It was a process he had to go through. The video games after the practices and stuff sometimes became more important than the games themselves. You got a generation of players that's doing that now. Built him a big gamer room. Beautiful chair. The chair is lifted off the ground, angles, and you can do everything with it. So, and that's what a lot of these young kids are going through now. They got two options, other distractions. And I got to understand this too as a parent, because these are some of these distractions I didn't have. And so goes by, you know, you think he's going to figure it out, don't happen. They're waiting for him to take that next step. Now, Portland wanted to give him the money, because he said all the right things and he cut from good cloth. And he's already said that I'm willing to do the dirty work. So they love the fact of the mindset that this kid was willing to come do the things, but you also got to put in the extra work. You got to take your body to the next level. You got to look like a pro. Your body can't be looking soft. And you got to be consistent. They're asking you to hit shots in the corner. Well, why ain't you doing that? No, it's not a slight. Why aren't you doing that? Don't think when people challenge you that it's a challenge because somebody doesn't believe in you. No,
Yeah.
what the franchise is saying, they need more from you. And sometimes having this discussion with young kids when they're going through real pressure, it's hard. And so the kid Kamara, they picked the kid Kamara. Uh, I hit my son before the kid got there because as a proud dad and a dad who's also want to be ahead of the game. I wanted to see what he was going to be up against. I go watch a video of Kamara. Kamara is a dog. I'm watching. Oh, this kid, he he doing all the things I trained my son to do. Off the ball, willing to go get the extra rebound. Wasn't the best shooter at the time, but you can tell one of those kids who get the right coach, he got that dog mentality. It's going to go like this. And that's exactly what happened. Came in, him and my son was competing for the spot minutes. First, my son, it seemed like he was going to take that leap. And this kid just, once he got to Portland and figured out what they were asking him to do, what they needed, he took off. When my son got comfortable, he took off. Long story short, you see what they gave him. My son went from guaranteed to a two-way contract, which is tough. But I needed that to happen for him so he can learn, because now, basically by him telling me to back off, he's kind of telling me he's his own man too. And as a dad, I could appreciate that. Where usually you would be for like, oh, I'm disrespected. I've done all these things and everything I've done. It's like that. You raising your kid to be a man, and nature will tell you when you got to back off, whether you want to or not. There's a time when nature will tell you, I need you to back off and let this young man figure it out for himself. And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. And so what happened was he had to figure it out. Second year, he didn't make that big leap, lost a little confidence. And I see all this happening in real time. Do I jump back in right now? Nah, I can't do that. As hard as I want to, I can't. I got to let nature take its course. That's the hard part, because the money's on the table, right? But as a dad, I'm more interested in my son growing as a man too, not just being some little immature kid who think he's this great basketball player, that basketball is everything, but yet you talking, I can't have a decent conversation with him because the ego is out the roof. I'd rather have a humble kid who I can talk to than an egotistical millionaire and somebody that thinks they're God's gift to the world, right? And so at that stage, and not that my son, I'm just saying that that's what you want to avoid, that those situations. And as a parent, you have an opportunity in real time. You got to navigate those fine lines. It can't be just about basketball. So he gets to Philly after going through adversity and similar situation. Now you got the kid Barlow there, who Again, another like a Kamar, another stud, another kid who's hungry. The African kid there who's, you know, none of those kids are highly skilled, but
Bona.
they're Bona. Love Bona. I love Bona. You know, again, who's willing just to do that. So now you got three guys there, Jabbar, you got Bona, you got the kid Barlow. That's why Philly low key was doing good because you got three not known players, but three guys who just willing to do the dirty work, who's searching for a role. Those little things matter. And so now you got two guys you're competing against. And I thought it was getting ready to go bad because they end up signing Barlow first. Once they signed Barlow, because both of them were in two-way contracts. And when they signed Barlow, I said, okay, this might be one of those situations where this might not be it. And then just about a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago, uh, they gave Jabari a 2-year extension to guarantee. So shout out to Jabari for going through the adversity
Yeah.
um, and doing what he needed to do as a man to reinvent himself. He just had two games back to back, 20 plus points the last two nights. He had 22 and 10 off the bench. Then he had like 20 something and 7 or 9 the night before that. And to see Coach Nick Nurse come out and talk highly of him in some of the clips, hey, that's what it's all about. It's a 360 turnaround.
Yeah. So
That's
that
the
kind of happened
adversity,
with
big
both of
dog.
your kids, right?
Yeah,
Because
hey.
earlier you said the Rutgers story was okay.
So Jabbar, my kid would tell you. So they laugh at me, right? They say, "Oh, Dad, your two favorite words, man, is adversity and platform." You'll you'll hear me use this a lot. If I'm talking basketball, I always use adversity and platform because I believe you got to have a platform first to be able to get to where you want to go. You got to create the right platform. Sports can be a right platform, whether it's football, basketball. Within that, the adversity is what helps sharpen the tools. See, a lot of people look at adversity and say, why God, me, this or that. Instead of saying, thank you, let me figure this out. This is really an opportunity for me to grow. So we don't do a good job in the United States of really exposing the psychology of certain things, especially when it comes to certain adverse moments. That's a time to ask questions. You don't get better without asking questions. Asking a question is one of the most powerful things you can do. I equate asking a question to the Big Bang. I'm gonna show my nerd side real quick. The Big Bang theory is, everything started from nothing. There was this Big Bang, and then there was light, and everything started moving. The universe is constantly expanding. Well, what do you think a question does? When you ask a question, one question, it forces you to expand. And when this
Okay.
question from here leads you to this question leads to this question. Now, what you're constantly doing is expanding everything. The power of a question is like going from darkness and flipping a switch. That's what I equate it to. In the Bible, it says, God, there was darkness and then there was light. Well, when you question something, that's what it does. It puts you in a position to find the answer. That's what adversity does. Adversity will force you to question certain things. Why did this happen to me? How can I get better? Or am I the reason why this happened? Or is this some external thing? And then you got to get to the real answers. And that's where the real individual self identity is built. But everybody wants to skip those steps. I teach my kids not to skip those steps. Is it painful? Yes. Are you going to find out some hard truths about yourself? Yes. That's real life. Not living in this falsetto world where you think that you're the best thing since sliced bread, or you're above beyond making mistakes, or you're above and beyond apologizing to people when you do make those mistakes. And it's about you being the best version of yourself, but being the most powerful version of yourself by being able to question things.
Man, that was amazing. And I'll be honest, I don't know if you like to write. You might write a book, write a manuscript. You could empower and influence and be a positive light for a lot of people who are probably looking for it, not just kids, adults alike. But
That's what I'm working on right now, though. That's to your answer. That's when I'm behind the scenes, bro. When we talk, I get up. I'm at Starbucks every morning, bro. At 4 or 5 a.m. I'm reading, and then I'm writing down information about my life and things that are going on. I did have a ghostwriter reach out to me recently, wanting to help, but I'm actually doing some stuff on my own as well. So I want to learn the process of it now because of technology. Things are a lot easier. We can do more on our own, and I'm really looking forward to it. I got the freedom, I got the time, the space, motivation, the energy, and the purpose. And so a lot of people have said that. I am doing that, just taking my time, in the process. And so I
Yeah,
really
you're gonna
want
have to
to.
treat it like
Yeah,
basketball, like how you was just saying. You're gonna have to
yeah,
start with
man.
your platform. You're gonna have to make a platform to do it from. And just like we was talking about earlier, like this ball to take you around the world, that's almost like this Lakers brand also. You're gonna have to start using a little bit of that to give a lot of information and influence, just to be honest with
Eh,
you. But
No, I
I
feel you. Yeah, that's not. I'm with you.
I appreciate this conversation. This is way more than I could have wrapped my mind around. But just the fact you know about the talented 10th and who moved my cheese, tell me where your mind is. You down for a quick Laker trivia game? It's all about your time with the Lakers though. Just 5 questions.
Let's do it.
All right, all right. So this is gonna be how well you know your teammates. Since you're the first Laker player I'm doing, that's how I'm gonna phrase it. How well did you know your teammates? So
All right.
you had one Arkansas Razorback on your team in your tenure with the Lakers. Who was that player?
Arkansas Razorback. Now, let me see. It wasn't Bouchon. It wasn't PG. It wasn't Mark Masson. I knew it wasn't Slava. Okay. Uh, wasn't Jelani McCoy. Let me get down to it. Wasn't Lindsey. Man, I'm trying to get to some of the names that may could have been Arkansas Razorback. Oh, that's a good one. Uh, Probably gonna kill myself when you tell me this if I'm gonna get this too. Uh, no, he went to Missouri. I was gonna say, man,
Kareem Rush.
I was gonna say Kareem Rush, and not Reem. Um, Damn, not B. Shaw, not Fish. Fish. Art
No, he did go to
Fish.
Little Rock though. He
Oh, it
did
was
go to
Little
Little
Rock.
Rock.
Right.
You want me to give it to
Okay,
you?
give me the yeah, give it to me.
Gennaro Pargo.
Wow. That's the one I didn't have. Shout out to
And he,
Janelle
hey,
Pargo.
Gennaro rookie season. I love 0203. He was hooping. All right.
Balling.
In game 7 versus the Kings, who led the Lakers with 14 rebounds?
Game 7,
Yeah.
you said? Kobe.
Yep.
I
Rick
remember him having a
Fox.
back. It's a game. Yep. Oh, Rick
No, it was
Fox?
Rick Fox.
Oh, really?
Game
I thought
7,
it was
2002
Kobe.
versus the Kings. Yep. He led the Lakers in rebounding.
Wow, I thought that was cold. I know one of those games cold because he went cold and he ended up having like this rebound in a bunch of
Versus the
games. But
Celtics. Versus the Celtics. And he did
that
that game 7 versus Celtics for sure.
that's
All
what
right.
that was. That's what I remember. Let's
All
do it.
right. The oldest player on the Lakers during your tenure, during your 2 years, who was the oldest player you played with?
I would say B. Shaw.
Mitch Richmond.
The oldest. Oh, wow. I didn't know Mitch was right. Okay.
Yep.
'Cause I
All
knew
right.
B. Shaw was on some of them Boston teams. I know B. Shaw and obviously Rick played on those Boston teams. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I got you. All right.
Yep. I think B. Shaw was right behind him, but it was
That's what
Mitch
it is.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Longest win streak during your Lakers tenure.
Woo. At that time, consider, man, I would say it would be no more than 12 games.
It wasn't even double digits. It was 9 straight, and it
I,
was in the
I was
first.
going to
It
say,
was in the. It was in the first month of you being there because you guys started 16 and one, won 7 straight, lost one, won 9 straight, and that was the longest winning streak of that 2 year tenure.
knowing us and how we were. it wasn't no long streaks going on because I at that time the team was already, like I said, in their second had done their second championship. We were going for our three-peat, so everything was kind of like cruise control at that time. So I
Yep.
get
All
that.
right, last question, and this one's personal to you.
You know,
What is your Lakers career or scoring high while you were on the team? And versus who, if you know?
that's a good question. I would say, damn, I never really been scoring high. I would say maybe what 17 against Golden State.
You had 18 Christmas Day, 2001 versus Philly, 18 and 10 rebounds.
Ah, it's close. All right, I knew it was somewhere around there. I was close. Yeah. All right.
Uh,
18
uh,
and 10, Philly. Okay, cool.
yeah, all right. Anything you want to add in, man? I appreciate you for this conversation. Anything that you want to, I'll just give you the floor. You kind of talked about, things that you're into now, but just anything you want to talk about.
No, man, you know what? First, I just want to say I appreciate, you bringing your platform and sharing your platform. I think as the world changes, I think we're going in some interesting times. And even as the sports world is so inviting, I think it's important to remember that there's a real world out here. There are things are going on that us as individuals need to be responsible and be able to highlight, for the people who are coming after us. I just like to say, whatever your title is, don't be so caught up in your title to where it doesn't allow you the flexibility to be able to maneuver. What do I mean by that? You got some people in high places because they're so high, they can't even use their platform to say certain things or move the needle. And so, yeah, you may be getting the bag and you may be getting money, but you don't have power. So I would say to the common person, never lose your power and your ability to have your voice. Once you do that, then I don't care how much you may be celebrated. Who are you really? You become an agent for the status quo. If you can't debate and you can't have real, logical, reasonable conversations because of your title or because you may be, you know, uh, I don't know what the situation may be, but if you lose the essence of that, then you lost yourself. And I think I'll end with that. The common person is the most powerful person, especially when you have something in common, which we all do. So don't lose that in America seeking validation, seeking something greater outside of yourself that will cause you to lose yourself. I think if you understand that, you will be the most powerful version of yourself and you will never get lost in the sauce.
Man, once again,
Yeah,
one of my favorite words, profound. But no, seriously, man, thank you for coming on for one. Like I said, to the
absolutely.
kid in me, this is just everything. And also being the first player, I'll share some stuff with you once I stop recording right now. But
Shout out, my dog.
shout
Yeah,
out, shout
appreciate
out to
that.
Lakers basketball. Shout out to the time that you spent because, like I said, man, that's third championship. It almost felt like the one that might possibly get away, and it didn't. And you played a big
Yeah,
role in that. And then shout out to
appreciate it.
everything that you're doing as far as yourself as a man and the things you've done for your kids. I think what you said, like let nature take its course at some point. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'll take away from that. But
Good for you.
overall, I got a million takeaways from this. I can't wait to talk to you again. But yeah, Samaki Walker, ladies and gentlemen.